Wolfpack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com, we breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with the week 3 sit start show. It's going to be a busy one. It's going to be a crazy one. There are a ton of injuries, news, notes, nuggets to dive into. I am so happy to be live here with you to try to cover it all. Come on in. We already have your 30 questions in the mailbag. So pumped to see that. Bright and early, everybody is already getting their questions on in. I love doing this early time slot. So come on in here, get those questions in. We'll build up the mailbags. As always, early thumbs ups do help us out. The likes, the shares, the retweets, all that good stuff. And then just one note that I just put the link to the YouTube on my Twitter, just in case it is hard to get your questions in there. A few people DM me messaging that it was tougher to get their Twitter question in, even though they like watching from over there. So whatever works best for you, but wanted to make sure that was up on my Twitter in case you wanted to jump in on over here at the YouTube. We, as always, do start with a quick Thursday Night Football recap so the mailbag can build so that people can get on in here, not get skipped with their questions. We'll start with the fact that Rodgers, my number one takeaway, looked all the way back. What a vintage performance. 27 of 35, 281 yards, and 2 scores. Of course, coming against my Patriots. Of course, my opponent was somehow starting Rodgers. I didn't consider him a top 20 quarterback entering the week. And man, he's going to prove me wrong. And unfortunately, he's going to do it against me. I was also facing Garrett Wilson, who went 5 catches for 33 yards and a score. So not so bad. The touchdown did obviously hurt. It was looking like a nothing day for Garrett Wilson there. He did get 9 targets, but man, it's just not like the Devontae Adams everybody was expecting, at least not yet. But I do think Rodgers looking quite as good as he did, especially the mobility and the pocket escapability and all that looked awesome. And the arm strength, some of those throws were clearly vintage Rodgers. I still think it's probably a good time to buy low here on Garrett Wilson, despite yet another underwhelming performance. I think the big days are coming, and I think the fact that Rodgers looked as good as he did is a huge reason why I'd probably buy low. There's also Tyler Conklin and Alan Lazard, and even Mike Williams emerging as waiver wire candidates with Rodgers looking so good suddenly. Conklin would be the first, especially at a very difficult tight end position right now. 5 catches, 6 targets, 93 yards. Very solid night for him. But Alan Lazard continues to do Alan Lazard things when Rodgers is there, and that's score touchdowns. 48 yards, TD, 3 catches on 3 targets, opened the scoring for the game. And last but not least, we got Mike Williams finally out there about half the time, and he looked good. 3 catches, 4 targets, 34 yards. So you're not starting the guy yet, but saw him get dropped in a lot of leagues. I'm guilty myself of dropping him in week 1. I don't feel overly guilty, but we're starting to see the activity ramp up. This was a guy who, before getting hurt last year, was a top 10 wide receiver. I know it was a different offense, a different Chargers team, but Mike Williams, Aaron Rodgers, those jump balls, that could definitely work out. So now is the time, I'd say, especially depending on how this waiver wire looks this week, to get on in on Tyler Conklin, Alan Lazard, and Mike Williams. 3 names I'd be looking at after this game. The other guy that I might prioritize above all of them, despite maybe not being quite as productive right away, is Braylon Allen. 11 carries, 55 yards, 3 catches, 13 yards, 8-ish half PPR points, which not what you necessarily want from your running back too, but when we're dealing with so many injuries at the position, you can get by with that. It is usable at minimum. But the big thing is the handcuff upside that Braylon Allen would have. He actually outgained Breece Hall, who had 54 yards on his 16 carries. So despite seeing 5 less carries, he did ultimately beat him out in yardage here. And he also was not too far. 20 touches for Breece, 14 for Braylon Allen. Like, this is a 55-45 split. And I get it. That's not what you probably expected out of Breece Hall. But guess what? The guy is averaging 21 fantasy points per game. He has scored a touchdown in all 3 games so far. You can't be complaining. The guy is still likely, if you were drafting today, top 7 overall pick, maybe even top 3, given that the nature of the running back position. So I get it. It's not the feature back that maybe many of you expected, myself included. And Braylon Allen looks better than expected also, but you still get what you want out of Breece Hall. So I still think he's a great play. Ultimately, Braylon Allen, though, if he somehow made it through last week of your waiver wires, and he is available in over 60% of leagues right now, he would be toward the top of the priority list after we see what happens here on Sunday. Last couple notes is this Patriots team is absolutely dreadful. And what does that mean for Ramondre Stevenson? Oh, brutal day. I think anyone would have told you to start Ramondre, myself included. I know on the Thursday stream, I said Ramondre's kind of earned his benefit of the doubt here. The most missed tackles forced in the league, looking like one of the best running backs. He's been averaging 75% of the snaps, 60% of the routes, like a true three-down horse in a very rare situation. It was the routes in particular that made me think, okay, even if we're losing to the Jets, Ramondre's still going to get some work. He's still going to be doing his thing. 6 carries, 23 yards, and a fumble for under a point. If you had him in your lineup, that sucks. But again, I would have started him whenever. I don't have any Patriots on my team, so I didn't have to start him. But I recommended a ton of people start him. If I did have him, I would have started him myself as well. So all you can do is plow forward. Don't think it's dead yet. I've had earlier this season, I had a 1-point performance on Thursday Night Football. It was Jeff Wilson just a week ago, and still dug out of the grave and won. And you can fight back, but maybe that changes your questions too. So add that context. If you had the Ramondre grenade just destroying you on Thursday, yeah, we're gonna have to shoot for the fences a little bit more here. So we can't just go for the safe 8 to 10 point play. We're gonna want to go for a 20-point Jordan Whittington type of play. We'll get to him. Very excited about him. And these Rams could be nothing. It could be 30 points. We shall see. But that wraps up really all the nuggets I thought were important. I mean, yeah, the Patriots pass catchers at this point, 98 scoreless yards for Jacoby Brissett. Hunter Henry, a big disappointment too. I guess we should touch on him because he was in the top 10 tight ends for me and a lot of people this week. Just 2 catches, 9 yards. Probably after waivers clear, you can cut this guy. If he was on your bench in Yahoo, you can still churn. It's tough to catch a tight end that just had 12 targets, 8 catches, a 50% target share, 109 yards. But I think you can probably move on, given how inconsistent it will be. We did see Drake May get in for a little bit, and yeah, exciting as a Patriots fan, kind of. Almost scarier, though, the fact that this offensive line is just as bad as it is. He was under fire immediately. Jacoby Brissett's getting killed. I always feel like a jerk being like, you can't put out Drake May right now. Rather just toss Jacoby Brissett to the Wolves here. But at the end of the day, your 3rd overall pick, you could shell shock him, David Carr type of situation if he gets in there. So I do worry about his long-term prospects if he gets in this year. And it seems likely that's going to have to be the case with Brissett just getting drilled each and every week. That wraps up, though, the Thursday night takeaways. Let me know if you have a question or takeaway you think I missed, or which of these guys should you prioritize. Any of those questions, be happy to take. Already over 45 in the mailbag. You love to see it. So I will breeze through the news as fast as I can here, Wolfpack. There is a good amount of it. I do this just to make sure that we got some questions get prompted from the news and all those different situations to keep you informed about everything I know as of now. Of course, some dominoes last week. Evan Engram hamstring pull right ahead of kickoff, and A.J. Brown was officially ruled out after we had gone through that scenario quite a bit for people. So things will change here, no doubt about it. I'll continue to update the rankings at rotostreetjournal.com. They are up to the minute right now. I put them right when I went live. So if you want to check those rankings out while we go, what I also love is adjusting things as I get these questions asked and answered, because I actually don't pull the rankings up. I want to answer from my gut so you know how I'm really, truly feeling. And sometimes I will just quickly search in the rankings just to be like, am I really that off? And you'll see they're 1 and 2 spots below each other. And I make the flip. I want my rankings to reflect what I answer for you guys out here as well. Let's get through this news, though. There is a bit of it. I'm going to try one new segment as well where who were the 3 most asked players about, because I'm probably going to get them in here. I already see a bunch of these questions. Cam Akers, Jerome Ford, Jaylen Waddle. Those 3 guys. I'm going to do a quick little breakdown of all 3 of those guys, too, in addition to the news, just because I've gotten so many questions already this week on those 3, and maybe it will help you decide, should I ask a question about them, or is my question already kind of answered? Because I can kind of refer back to that. So enough of my blabber. Let's dive on in here. Ultimately, the Packers will be starting Malik Willis against the Titans. Disappointing, given that Jordan Love, I guess, disappointing and encouraging in the same way. He was truly up to the minute questionable, practicing in full pads this week. They do seem to want to play it safe, give him another week to heal up, but all the signs are pointing towards that he is bouncing back. And revenge game of Malik Willis. Now, you're really probably a nut start in this guy. He impressed me a ton. I do think the receivers here, Dobbs, Jaden Reed, certainly not nearly as high as if you were getting Jordan Love. That's obvious. That goes without saying. But I was encouraged by what Malik Willis did. He got the ball on schedule. He got it to his playmakers. It just goes to show you what a good coach can do. Matt LaFleur will play to his strength, make it easy for him. And he did what he had to do to get the win against the Colts last week. I think they're going to do the same here against the Titans. And if you're desperate, I think Jayden Reed really can still be started. He's my wide receiver 39 this week, so he's in there. I have him above Christian Kirk. I'm not into that experience at all. Guys that can make the damage after the catch. Dobbs was, again, the leading receiver last week. You don't have to bench these guys quite with the urgency you did last week before we knew what we were getting. Justin Herbert's also questionable, though. That's one we're going to have to monitor before game time against the Steelers. That game's a really tough pick 'em at this point. But if Herbert's ruled out and it's the Easton Stick experience, I think it is very clear and easy to bench any of those players. Even Dobbins at that point, a guy that I've loved. If it's Easton Stick at QB, yeah, they feed the running backs even more. But against the Steelers front seven with no threat at all at QB, I'd be very nervous about Dobbins this week. Should it be Herbert, though, I'm ready to go back all in. Let me know if you do have Dobbins questions, but I just wanted to say it might be a little bit of a contingent answer, which I hate to give, but I'll give any scenario so you can know that ahead of the kickoff. Moving on to the running back position, Joe Mixon officially ruled out and maybe more concerningly labeled week to week. So this could be not just a 1 week rest. Doesn't seem like it's going to be more than 4 weeks. They would have put him on the IR. But we also do have Dameon Pierce ruled out, and I did write about this situation. If you want to check out a more in-depth breakdown on Cam Akers, it will be at rotostreetjournal.com. Yours truly went and dove in there. But the Texans so far this year, 9th in rush attempts, 10th in rush yardage. The zone blocking scheme's looking good. We saw Mixon rip 30 carries for 150 yards and a score, was a top 5 running back in week 1. And I get the Vikings matchup. One looks a little scary. They right now are 25th in points allowed to running backs, but when you look at it, it's a very small sample size, only 2 games. We had the Giants get completely shut down. Everybody's going to shut down the Giants. And then we had the 49ers, who ran absolutely wild with Jordan Mason going for over 100 yards and a touchdown. And Bobby Slowick runs a very similar. He came from the 49ers. He runs that zone blocking scheme that really was getting quite wide lanes there for Jordan Mason to zip right on up. So I do think the answer lies somewhat in the middle there, not quite as bad as the Giants looked, not quite as good as the 49ers, who are absolutely masterful at that scheme, but I do think it leans a little bit closer towards the 49ers. I'm not, ultimately what I'm trying to get at is I'm not worried about this matchup here for Cam Akers. I think he's going to get 20 plus touches. You see this is the type of play that, like, at the third on the depth chart right now. Does the coaching staff at all have any hesitancy to give this guy 30 touches if the game flow is right? No, that's going to be a big question mark. Cam Akers does have a 3-down skill set, but I do expect Dare Ogunbo, I always butcher the name, Dare O, is going to likely switch in on those pass catching situations. And so if it gets ugly game situation early, bomb to Justin Jefferson, another 97-yard touchdown, something crazy, and they are playing from behind for a good amount of this game, yeah, it's not going to be the best setup for Cam Akers. But if they, conversely, Nico Collins goes nuts, 75-yard touchdown, it's one of those situations off to the races for the Texans. We could see Cam Akers bleeding this clock all game. He looked real good in the preseason. Nobody had more than his 121 yards, 3.2 yards after contact, 4.7 yards per attempt. Looking really, really solid. It's crazy this guy tore his Achilles in November, a second Achilles tears too. Nobody comes back from one Achilles tear, never mind 2. And that is a little bit of a risk here, but I trust what my eyeballs showed me. And you want to watch some of the clips, they are on, again, that post at rotostreetjournal.com. It was just the preseason. I get it. But last week averaged over 5 yards a pop against the Bears when he got in there after Mixon went down. I feel really good, honestly, about Cam Akers. Maybe it's because I'm being forced to start him and I'm trying to drum my own confidence up about it. But I do feel really solid about him as a nice RB2. He's right there at running back 22 or 23 in the rankings off the top of my head. So I think he's a locked-in running back 2 this week. Get 20 touches, good offense. Don't overthink it. Play the guy if you are stuck in a situation. Over Ford, over Waddle. We're going to talk about those guys after we breeze through this news, but wanted to kind of quickly touch upon my first guy there. The other news of the week, Rachaad White is off the injury report. I know, very disappointing last week. The Detroit Lions are also the toughest run, the fewest points allowed to backs last year, already looking like a bowl of a matchup, but just brutal to go after this season as well. Now he gets the Broncos, who allowed the highest yards per carry so far this year. Last year was the same beast. I do think Rachaad White is one of the more inefficient runners in the league, if you look at success rate, explosive run rate. the guy does get a ton of volume, though. Now, Bucky Irving is also sitting there right behind him, and maybe we start to see that workload get ramped up. But being off the injury report at minimum, you can't be too worried about Rachaad White. I do think he is a quality running back, too. He's right there at running back 15 for me in the rankings this week. This offense looks great. He's a 260 touch candidate within this awesome offense under Baker and Liam Cohen. So, yeah, I think you play Rachaad White in most situations. Let me know if you do have questions on him. Walker likely to sit, doubtful for this game, and was ultimately last week the Zach Charbonnet show. Did not rest a single snap last week, got every single running back touch. They did not make this a committee, just as promised, and he delivered. The matchup gets even easier this week against the Dolphins. They've had a few tough matchups in a row there, the Seahawks. So Charbonnet right there in your top 20 running backs yet again. It's a more of a volume-based play than anything. I don't think he's overly special as a talent, but he gets what's blocked. He runs hard. He's powerful. So again, I think you can definitely get by. 14 attempts last week, 5 targets last week. I feel pretty good about using Charbonnet today, and a good $6K price there on DraftKings as well. Mostert, we're going to talk about him in one sec. Raheem Mostert and this Dolphins backfield, he is doubtful to play against the Seahawks. I'm worried about this Dolphins offense. We're going to talk again about Jaylen Waddle in a sec, but it's going to be the Skylar Thompson impact on this passing game at minimum. Devon Achane, though, last week was unbelievable. Career high 29 touches, went for 29 points depending on your scoring settings. You're playing Achane. There's no doubt about that. That's where, it's going to get impacted. The total efficiency of this offense, it goes down. And you'd rather, as an Achane owner, have Tua out there making this a more efficient game. But they're going to lean on this guy even more. And it wasn't a situation like it was last year where somebody misses time, Mike McDaniel forces that committee. Yeah, Wilson mixed in a little bit. Jalen Wright had a 3-carry smattering. But ultimately, it was the Devon Achane show. It's 65% of the snaps, 70% of the routes, 80% of the carries. It was a bona fide workhorse experience, and the results were as obvious as can be. This guy is so efficient with his work, and even with the elevated work, he continued to be a beast. So, yeah, you're playing Devon Achane. The other guys, I still think Wright's a great stash. I know some of you guys are probably getting sick of hearing it, but we do know the injury history with Devon Achane and with the elevated workload. Again, I'm not trying to wish anything. It would be horrible to see, but you got to play the games. And I do think Jalen Wright, if given the opportunity, the final box score last week, he had like a 10-yard run cut call back as a penalty, different situations like that. I think Wright still has a lot of upside. It got dropped in a lot of leagues out of frustration last week. I'd be looking at potentially picking him up. Let me know, who you would consider cutting ahead of him. Last couple nuggets here are with the Chiefs backfield. Kareem Hunt is not going to be elevated for this week. So at minimum, we're going to get a little taste of, is this Carson Steele? Is this Samaje Perine? One of the big debates of the week. If you watch the Waiver Wire show, you know where I lie, and that is Samaje Perine. We've seen the pass-catching backs ultimately take on much bigger roles because this offense just gets far pass happier when the number one running back has been knocked out. They want the pass protector and those elevated snaps, more leak outs, more touchdowns. We saw it with Jerick McKinnon, Damian Williams. The list goes back on and on. Darrell Williams, of number 2 running backs, being monstrous fantasy producers in this backfield. I do think Steele probably gets the first carry of the game, and everyone freaks out on Twitter. Oh, it was Carson Steele, wasn't it? I don't know, though. I'm not convinced that they don't just go to Perine from the start. And even if they do give it to Steele, 3 yards of carry on the year, lost fumble last week. If he just puts the ball on the turf once, I don't know that we see this guy again. Could he also, preseason-wise, rip off all the 100 yards after contact and just go absolutely bananas on a crazy touchdown run, and now you've got a league winner? Absolutely as well. It's good to have. If you could somehow get both those guys on your bench, great, go for it. Because I don't feel overly confident that it's Samaje Perine. But if I had my choice of the two, that's the one I'm still planting my flag on. And Perine, we'll see, because it's going to be so valuable, I think, to get it right. Maybe it is just a dreaded timeshare and then just nibble each other's cheese as well. But in the past, that's not been the case behind Andy Reid's starters when they go down. The last nugget is the running backs. Tajay Spears is questionable, but expected to now play. I think Pollard's still a phenomenal play against a really bad Green Bay defense, giving up the 5th most points to running backs. He's been great so far himself, 15 or more points in back-to-back weeks. It looks like the pre-surgery, the pre-hairline fracture surgery, Tony Pollard, that we saw 2 years ago. Very explosive. This offense is The line is a worry for the passing game, no doubt about it, but we know Callahan's dad coaching that lineup, great blocking up front in the run game so far. So Pollard looking great. He's kind of close to that just start and forget territory for me. It's certainly in most leagues, but you can let me know your situation there. Well, back, we're up to nearly 500 of you already. 484 is the number I'm seeing. Love to see it. 50 questions in the mailbag already. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button, the like, the share, the retweet, and if a question's tough to get in on Twitter, just a reminder, I tweeted out the link at the top for the YouTube. Not trying to drive anyone to watch it wherever you enjoy, but I know some people have been DMing me that it's been really hard to get their Twitter questions on in, or the X questions, whatever it is. So if that is the case for you, pop on over to the YouTube and hey, maybe hit that subscribe button. We did cross the 4K threshold on Thursday night, which was so awesome. Good to see some new subscribers back here. Again, you love to see it. Thank you guys so much for joining once again. Now let's dive in. Running back was definitely the most loaded position, but we do have a handful of wide receiver and some surprising tight end notes to cover. And then we'll hit those three players that I mentioned, and the last hour and a half, 2 hours will be all your questions. Wide receiver news. CeeDee Lamb off the injury report. This is kind of the quick start. Your studs are playing. CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins, all guys that started the week with a questionable designation, all guys that were removed from their injury report by the end of the week. So you're firing up your studs as usual. A.J. Brown is not going to play this week, so one stud, though, is not returning. I do love that game against the Saints. I think Devonta Smith, a phenomenal play this week, a fringe top 10 receiver, no doubt about it in my mind. The Saints pushing teams as well suddenly, the highest scoring team in NFL, and not just that, but the highest scoring team through 2 weeks in the last 100 years. It's awesome what this team is doing under Clint Kubiak. I think the Eagles have the horses to finally push them as well, so we could get a real banger of a game. I'm not going to be alone in targeting that in DFS, but that's definitely one of the angles I will be playing this week. Going over to the 49ers, Deebo Samuel is officially ruled out, and I guess we might as well just cover the fact that George Kittle is ruled out as well. So hello, Brandon Ayuk. All you guys waiting out there, including myself, for the big breakout game. How could it not be this week? I cannot wait for a 15-target Brandon Ayuk day, and they really have no one else. Yeah, Juwan Jennings, he'll come in, and he is actually a little bit of a sexy flexy play today, given how concentrated this offense is now looking with just him and Ayuk. I think Jennings can do Deebo things. He's not Deebo, not even close, but he is a bit of a move-around piece. He is versatile. So I do think there's going to be a solid production there. I know my man Campanelli was talking about him early on the waiver wire show, and I gave him a little scoff chuckle, and I was like, yeah, baby. But now that Deebo's out and Kittle's out, like there's definitely, I originally was like, yeah, it's going to be Ayuk, it's going to be Kittle, maybe some scraps left over for Jennings, but I could never trust him. But now that Kittle's gone too, it's the second mouth to feed in this offense. I also do think it just trickles away down to Jordan Mason, and I think this team against the Rams front that is, since losing Aaron Donald, getting bullied up front. I wouldn't be shocked to see Jordan Mason get like 35 carries today either. I had him as like my running back 6. I think I'm going to be bumping him up even further as I think about the situation, maybe ahead of even Devon Achane. I don't know, maybe ahead of Barkley. This team is just going to run wild, and he's going to be ultra chalk at 6,200 on DraftKings, but you got to just kind of eat that one, in my opinion. We do have Keenan Allen officially ruled out. Rome Odunze is off the injury report. Rome Odunze's dad is tweeting out highlights of how open his son is and how frequently Caleb Williams is missing him. That sounds like a squeaky wheel to me. Now, can Caleb Williams actually grease the squeaky wheel? I don't know. But I think we're going to have the shot at it with Keenan Allen ruled out against a Colts secondary that is bottom of the barrel in this league. I'm not saying you have to start Rome Odunze. I'm just saying that I would not be surprised at all if I'm tweeting out after that game, one of the major risers of 1 p.m. is Rome Odunze because he had his coming out party. I saw him get dropped in a lot of leagues. He absolutely belongs at least on your benches. So double check, did Rome Odunze get dropped in your league? Because I would be scrambling over my feet to go pick this guy up before he blows up, potentially as early as today. T. Higgins, he practices on Friday. In fact, he's officially ruled in for Monday. And that's another good question. I think it's another one that'll probably get asked quite a bit here. And the answer is almost always yes when you're facing the Commanders. Is there the risk that T. Higgins gets a little flare up and he runs 2 routes and suddenly You see him off to the sideline, you're spitting at your TV, maybe even smashing it. Who knows how aggressive you get with these things? Yeah, there's that risk. And I don't want any broken TVs out there, folks. No one wants to wipe spit off either. I am worried that could happen. And yet you get that situation of the Commanders secondary being so abysmal. Like, is this T. Higgins like, yeah, I'm going to pick my spots. I'm going to show my worth against the worst teams in the league and earn that contract next year, even while sitting out, over half the games. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what this guy's playing? But he's playing this week. He gets the Commanders secondary, and to me, it's almost a no-brainer. Anyone against that secondary should be in lineup. So yeah, I'm playing T. Higgins this week. I right now, so I do like to again pull up the rankings to adjust them while we talk. So I'm going to double check where I have T. Higgins, because I do think I don't know if I accounted for the fact that he's like already ruled in. Expected him to play, so I had him about 15 spots above the ECR. Anyways, I think that's going to now catch up with him officially ruled in, and I want to make sure I'm reflecting how high I am on T. Higgins. So we will check that one out, folks, as we get ready. But let's continue to move forward. Josh Downs removed from the injury report. He will play. We do have Michael Pittman officially active today as well, according to Adam Schefter. So both those guys will be in. It makes it a little tricky. What do you do with Alec Pierce, who's been going absolutely nuts? Probably tough to start him. There's a good Bears secondary. A.D. Mitchell at this point certainly needs to be on benches. It will be a very interesting week to monitor how this goes. Do you think Josh Downs, 20% rostered right now in leagues? One of those nice little stashes ahead of the game. Certainly not trusting him to play this week, but he was labeled very early in camp like the star, outplaying Michael Pittman, going to earn all the targets. And apparently that's now Alec Pierce. But don't be shocked if Josh Downs just walks right in to a really massive workload here. So I'm intrigued to stash this guy and see what happens. And maybe to just none is the answer for Anthony Richardson's weapons in the passing game. But at minimum, I would like to see what he does if I have the bench space this week. We do have Greg Dortch questionable. He's in a great spot if he plays, though. If you're desperate for a streamer, this Lions team has gotten destroyed in back-to-back weeks against slot receivers. So maybe even if it's just for DraftKings, it's worth monitoring. Is Greg Dortch going to play? It's a 4:00 game. So again, in your manager leagues, I know you're not holding out for Greg Dortch, but one of those like late swap pivots that no one's going to probably have in their lineup because of the late nature of the news that I could see being a really important player. Again, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, Greg Dortch next. I get it. I know he's not on the same level as those guys, but just something to consider. And wrapping up our news with just a couple quick tight end notes. Taysom Hill doubtful to play in week 3 against the Eagles. That's really big news. This guy is a volume hog. You can kind of bank on 8 to 10 touches going to this guy, and really often green zone touches, those highly valuable looks. In fact, him and Kamara are tied for inside the attempts inside the 5-yard line the past 2 years, and more have gone over to Taysom Hill over the last 3 years. So this is huge for Kamara, who's already on the sun run of his life on touchdowns to start the year, looking phenomenal. Looking like maybe the league-winning pick of the year. Sign him back up for yet another massive day here. And then ultimately the other tight ends, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, even. If you're desperate for a streamer tight end, I do prefer Juwan Johnson. That's the one I would lean towards. But if you're desperate, you could probably get by with either of these guys in this explosive Saints attack, and it does boost up Derek Carr. He's not going to get pulled off the field in those red zone situations. He really hasn't been anyways under Kubiak, but they do like to hand it to Taysom Hill still. So I just feel, and even like it trickles down to Rashid Shaheed and Olave, right? Like when you have 50 plays in a game, most likely, when you're running a fast-paced offense like them, and 10 of them are designed for Taysom Hill. I mean, you've opened up about 20% of the touches without this guy in the lineup, and that could be big for everybody involved here. George Kittle ruled out, doubtful to play. It was officially ruled out as of Saturday. So again, Juwan Jennings show could really be on. I think it's going to be Ayuk getting peppered. I think Jordan Mason's going to get hammered with looks. And then I think we will have the Juwan Jennings, the third mouth to feed here on this offense. And I do think that is very viable to play here. Evan Engram, last couple notes. I do see Stephen Drake's you super chatted. I will be right here with you in 1 sec. Just Evan Engram is out most likely. It's Monday night, not worth bringing it down to the wire. Brenton Strange did have solid 65 yards, 3 catches. One of my ways I might be playing some situations, especially on Yahoo, where you get the bench flexibility. I might not start a tight end and stash some of these guys, the Bucky Irvings, the Samaje Perines, those situations. I have them on my roster. I don't want to cut them. I want to see how today goes. And so if you can wait it out for Strange and then play him at your tight end spot and cut whichever one isn't looking the most promising as of Monday, go for it. So that's a situation I might be playing as well. David Njoku's been ruled out. I do not think Jordan Akins is viable. And that wraps up the notes. Other than defensively, Marshawn Lattimore is going to play. Maybe that changes things a little bit for Devonta Smith, but maybe not. We haven't seen the dude. We have no idea how he looks. Return to action sometimes could be rusty. And then George Fant is on the IR for the Seahawks against a bad line already. My man, Stephen Drake, let's go. Thank you for the advice last week. You were right. Hey, I'm glad I got it. You've always come in with the super chats. So cheers to you. Thank you so much. You said Ford, and I was right. And we're going to cover that in more depth here this week as well. But I didn't say Ford last week, and still didn't expect it to go as bad as it did in terms of the Foreman situation there. Oof, we'll talk about it. Alrighty. Charbonnet, Ford, Akers, Montgomery needs 2 again. So to me, I'm still always locking in Montgomery. Arizona is better on run D than they were last year. There's no doubt about that. Wasn't much place to go other than up. And I actually rank them Charbonnet, then Akers, then Ford, at least in my mind right now. I'm really intrigued by Akers, but I do think that one has a far greater risk of imploding. Whereas Charbonnet, you just saw get 20 touches. It's likely going to happen yet again. And the Miami matchup's not scary at all. So I'm going to go Montgomery as a locked in. Like, you're going to get your touchdown. You're going to get your 70 yards. Maybe he scores twice and just makes you feel phenomenal. And then I'm going to go Charbonnet with those 20-ish guaranteed touches. Akers is nipping right on Charbonnet's heels. It probably has the higher ceiling, honestly. But I ultimately think there's a lot more risk to Akers than there is Charbonnet. So I'm going to go Monty, and I'm going to go Charbonnet myself. And in all honesty, Jerome Ford is the lowest of those guys. We also did have a super chat over here from Jeff Whitfield. And guys, if you want to cut the line, you got to get in and out. Super chat is both so appreciated for your boys here, financially keeping the lights on here at Rose Street Journal, but it also does give you that flexibility to cut the line. I'll pause what I'm doing and give you a nice in-depth take on whatever issue or question you're dealing with. You need a flex. Pollard versus Green Bay or Neighbors versus Cleveland. And let me know, Jeff, if you can, what the scoring is, because that does change things. I always assume half PPR if not told, and so I'll assume half PPR. But if it is full PPR, that's going to elevate Neighbors even more. Now, I think the answer, assuming you get any kind of reception points, half or full PPR, is for me Malik Neighbors. How do you not play a guy coming off 18 targets, 64% target share, looking so electric? You see Neighbors talk to the reporters after the game and talk about like how he appreciates the fact that they have full faith in him calling plays. Not even Daniel Jones called the plays. Hey, the rookie's now in charge. I'm the captain, Daniel Jones. And what did Neighbors do? He called his number as many times as can be. There's that report that like Brian Daboll has like a sheet on the back of his clipboard that's just like, who's hot right now? Here's all the plays that are designed to free them up and get it to them. And it's literally labeled Malik Neighbors plays. So ultimately, I love Neighbors. And you mentioned it's full PPR, even better. Even more so, given those dink and dunk looks. Like, I love Pollard. I think it's a great matchup. And the 5th most points allowed to backs. He's running phenomenal. Looks just like that tightrope surgery Pollard. That I love it. He's the top 18 running back for me this week. A monster start in most situations. But even though that secondary is good in Cleveland, the way they use Neighbors is not their typical receiver. It's almost like a running back getting 18 touches out of the backfield, but they're dink and dunk catch looks. So I got to go Neighbors here against Cleveland. I've got the rose covered glasses as a Neighbors manager though too. I have them on all my teams, so maybe I'm biased. I do have Pollard on a few though, and I know I would go Neighbors. I have them both in my lineup, but I would go Neighbors over Pollard if I had to choose between the two. Thank you for the super chat again, Jeff. Much appreciated, and thank you, William, for the super chat as well. Greatly appreciated, guys. Flex 2 of Akers, Worthy, Higgins. My man needs to win. Don't we all? But yeah, especially if we're sitting here at 0-2, it is getting sketchy. This is a very tough one. I think here I might bench Higgins. I definitely go Akers. I think that's the safest play here, which is wild, by the way. I think Cam Akers is safer than these dudes. But you're going to get 18 to 20 touches unless they truly start to get blown out unexpectedly. And so I got to ride that. Just given how good he looked in the preseason, there is always the risk of an injury with Cam Akers too. So, that worries me, no doubt. But to me, I think Akers a good bet for 18 to 20 touches today, um, in a matchup that looks scary on paper than I think it actually is. So I'm going to go Cam Akers, and then Worthy versus Higgins. It's like, I mean, we're talking two boomer bust guys. Higgins does have the better matchup, but I think I want to roll the Worthy dice one more time here. I imagine that Rashee Rice gets kind of the AJ Terrell treatment, and if Worthy gets it, then damn, that's gonna potentially lock him out. But you get till Sunday night to kind of sit and feel this one out. I would play Akers at 1, hope for that 100-yard touchdown upside to hit here, and then you choose between the two receivers, William, and I would potentially, I think I would go Worthy myself over Higgins. I already had Higgins pretty high here at 28, and that's I realize I kind of baked that already in there. So, Higgins versus Brian Thomas is kind of where I'm leaning, but I do have Worthy a couple spots ahead of him. So I'm going to go Akers and Higgins. I mean, Aker and Worthy myself, William. I do recognize, though, I think Worthy's probably the lowest floor. So if you wanted to play it safer, maybe you do go to Higgins. But like I mentioned, the hamstring flare up happens, and suddenly you're shit out of luck, lost without a paddle type of situation. So I'm going to go Akers and Worthy is where my gut leans here. Thank you so much, William. Hope you get that W. Let us know how it goes for you. Robert Simmons coming in with a super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity today, guys. It is so greatly appreciated. Flex start, Akers or Steele. I am 110% going Akers myself, just guaranteed far more of the every down type of workload here. Both of them are good offenses, so you're looking at volume and good offenses, but I do prefer Samaje Perine to Carson Steele. I again may live to rue the day. We shall see. I do think Steele gets the earlier carries, and if he gets a hot hand, he might keep it, but Samaje Perine is going to be that trusted veteran in pass protection. I think they're going to take to the air far more than they take to the ground. This Chiefs team, that's historically what they've done when they lose their number one back. And in that case, they lean on typically just one guy, and it's their best pass protector that's left on the roster, and that's definitely Samaje Perine, a 75-plus graded pass protector by PFF these past 2 years, and ultimately the highest yards per route run in the league last year. So I think he can play the McKinnon role, play it very well, and that's yielded top 20 running back numbers, even with the starter in there, never mind without them. We've seen McKinnon be the number one scoring running back when he was the starter for that stretch on 2022. Darrell Williams averaging 20 points per game, Damian Williams averaging 20 points per game. And to me, Samaje Perine feels like he's more like that mold. Maybe it's Steele, maybe he is the guy, but I am leaning the other way. We then have David Dave. Great question here. Burrow or Carr? Who would have thought we'd be asking this one, especially when you look at it and see Burrow is facing the Washington secondary. But it is very, very worthy of a question given the Clint Kubiak effect there in the Saints. As mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the highest scoring team over the last 100 years through 2 weeks with 91 total points. And this is without them getting pushed at all. They've just been sitting there like burying teams early and then just bleeding the clock late. I could see a shootout game back and forth here with them and the Eagles. So I love that environment. I think Carr's a great play today. Yet I still am going to go Burrow, given that Washington matchup, given that Burrow looked like Burrow again against the Chiefs. And T. Higgins is now back. You got your full weapons cabinet. You got the matchup. Burrow's a top 5 play for me this week. I got to go with him on Monday night. This is a great question, though. So best of luck. Both of these guys are definitely worthy. Let me know which one you ultimately decide here. And thank you again so much for your generosity, Davey Dave, Robert, William, Jeff, Stephen Drake's coming in at all times with his super chats. You guys are so greatly appreciated with your generous support. Now it is going to be on to all of your questions in just a second. But I did want to cover this kind of quick segment here of the most talked about guys. And as you've already seen, Cam Akers has popped up in nearly every one of those super chats. I see him a ton in the mailbag already. So I'm not going to go into this detail on every single answer for Cam Akers. I'm going to just reference a couple of these stats one last time. Texans right now, 9th in total rush attempts, 10th in rushing yards. They do want to establish it under Bobby Slowick. It's how the Shanahan scheme works. You get the run going, you get the play action going off of it. That's always been how it is, and it has already been so far this year, despite all these wide receiver acquisitions. It has not been CJ Stroud, go out and chuck this thing 70 times, go for the MVP. It has been, let's get this rock going. let's establish it. So that is good, fertile run environment for the guy. Still a top 10-ish offense, in my opinion, even though Stroud hasn't been asked to do a ton. You know he can. You know this team can put up points with the best of them. So we're looking at it back right now with no Dameon Pierce, no Joe Mixon. Really, that Dare Ogunbowale, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I should know how to pronounce it, and I can't. But ultimately, one guy, Dare, mixing in on the passing downs here. And that does become the risk. If they get game flowed out of it, and this Vikings team has looked feisty, there is the risk that ultimately Sam Darnold leads a 97-yard touchdown bomb to Justin Jefferson. Rather, Justin Jefferson just does all the work for him, and we're off the races the wrong way. But I do think it's far more likely the Texans win this game. They're the favorites right now, and that Cam Akers, who I get it, you're trusting a third string back at this point, but you look at the preseason tape, 20 carries, over 120 yards, the most in the preseason of any back, 3.2 yards per attempt came after contact. He was just cutting on a dime, changing the field of direction, looking like, and Bobby Slowick had this quote about him, the way he glides through the hole. It truly, with a zone blocking scheme, if you can glide and kind of follow the motion, and that's what we saw at the Cam Akers start the preseason. Bobby Slowick excited that this is why we're so confident in this guy. We're happy to have him here and starting this week. They're jazzed up about Cam Akers, and at minimum too. What I love about it is like you're getting this game. Joe Mixon is also week to week, so I think you get next week as well. And I think if he shows well this week, see you later, Dameon Pierce. What have you done? 2.9 yards per carry last year, worse in the NFL. 1 yard a carry this preseason. 9 yards on his 8 attempts. He's been a horrific fit for the zone blocking scheme. Whereas Cam Akers, at least by the preseason eyeball test, you can get it's dangerous to fully trust that, but he has looked like a great fit in the zone scheme. Can catch the ball as well too. So I'm a huge fan of Akers in this environment, in this setup, in the Vikings matchup. Sure, 25th fewest points allowed to backs, but ultimately it's as I mentioned earlier in the stream, Devin Singletary and the Giants got completely shut down, and then we saw Jordan Mason go wild for 20 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown in the 49ers scheme that has inspired the same Texans zone blocking scheme as well. I do think we meet somewhere a little bit in the middle, maybe more leaning towards the Mason there in terms of what we can expect from this Vikings D in defending the run here. I don't think it's as bad as it was with the Giants. I don't think it's quite as beautiful as it was for Jordan Mason last week, but this is a great run game. And I think Akers is going to have himself a real nice day. 20-ish carries, 100-ish yards, maybe even a score. We shall see. But I'm playing him over Jerome Ford, for example. This is one of the most asked guys already again today. I did like a Reddit quick AMA earlier. Not even an AMA, just like posted a Cam Akers article in there and got a million questions. And Jerome Ford was the one who kept coming up, as was Jaylen Waddle. So I wanted to quickly touch upon those guys and how I feel about them this week. So we had Jerome Ford, week 1, 18.9 points, running back 9 on the week, 73% of the snaps, 86% rush share, 70% route share, 19% target share. One of the most elite looking backs in the league. All right, we could sign me up until Nick Chubb is back. We're golden. And then drops dramatically, 42% of the snaps, 28% of the rush attempts, 6% target share. Still looks really good. He had 7.4 fantasy points, was running back 33, ultimately takes 7 carries for 64 yards, like above 9.5 yards per attempt. Okay. Caught 1 ball for 0 yards. But why was Tonta Foreman out carrying him? He gets the start, 14 carries, 42 yards, catches 1 target for 9 yards. Ultimately, Foreman sees more rushes, 52% of the rush share there. And he did okay. He was the running back 35 with 6.7 on the week, but clearly the efficiency, again, 3 yards a carry, 14 carries, 42 yards for Foreman, 9 yards a pop for Ford. You got to hope the coaching staff is watching this and like, what are we doing? Let's make sure we're getting Ford the rock. And yet I do think there's some like, if we can get in here and just pound the team into submission and run, it looks like Ford's going to be the on the bench in those situations, and Foreman in these obvious run situations like a Giants matchup today is going to be. So it's really risky because I think Ford's by far better player. I do have him higher in my rankings than Foreman, but the fact that Foreman is as involved as he is, even in a delightful matchup today, delightful. I want to play Ford, but I would rather have Akers. Ford's not bench. You must bench by any means. You can definitely get some value out of the guy today. But let me know if you do have questions on him. And then the last one I will cover here is Jaylen Waddle. And honestly, he's on the bench for me if I can help it. Skylar Thompson, he made 3 starts with the Dolphins in 2022. Maybe he's gotten better, maybe he's grown. But ultimately, Waddle saw 14.3% targets per route run. That was 96th in the league. He racked up 101 yards across 3 games on 16 targets and averaged 7.9 PPR points per game. So you break those into what the per game average was: 5.3 targets, 3.7 catches, 37 yards, and 0 touchdowns. You wanted to put that in your lineup today? I don't myself. I'd rather have Cam Akers running the ball 20 times today. So I'm benching Waddle. It's always scary when it's a talent as good as him. And just so you guys know, Tyreek's averages, he averaged 9 targets per game. So definitely kept that healthy target share, 5.3 catches, 46.3 yards for Tyreek, 0 touchdowns in those 3 starts for Skylar Thompson as well. I'm not as keen to bench Tyreek Hill. He can just wreck a matchup at any given point, more so than Jaylen Waddle can. To me, Waddle's never been much of a, he does have big games sometimes, especially when Tyreek Hill is out, but he's never been the oh man, your fantasy matchup is over because you were facing Jaylen Waddle. So without that type of ceiling and now a significantly lower floor, if I can bench Jaylen Waddle, I'm going to bench Jaylen Waddle. And so I have him at wide receiver 31, below T. Higgins, below Brian Thomas, below Xavier Worthy, as some examples, certainly below Calvin Ridley for me. Tank Dell ahead of him. So those are some situations to consider. And again, like I said, Cam Akers, I would play over Jaylen Waddle as well. So those were 3 of the most asked questions I've gotten this week so far. Let me know if that prompts a question for you. But now it is on to the rest of the time being a mailbag for all of you. So let us dive on in here. Krana and DC Martin getting this one in at 6:45 p.m. Beating the rush here. I love it. Camping out overnight. Brandon Cooks or Brian Thomas. I'm definitely 10 out of 10 times going Brian Thomas. Scary Buffalo secondary, but this guy is electric. He's elite. He's, I think, at this point, ahead of Christian Kirk by a mile in his pecking order. And you got no Evan Engram. So DC Martin, I'm definitely going Brian Thomas. Now, as we get to the mailbag, we have 800 of you already here, and we're not even into the first hour. You love to see it. We'd love to keep climbing, maybe even hit that 1K mark. We did it in week 1. We got close in week 2. That thumbs up button would help us do it wherever you are, whether you're on YouTube, Twitter, wherever you are watching. Please do consider hitting that thumbs up button. Love to see again some of the new subs from Thursday coming back out of the woodwork. You sickos, I love you. Good to see you coming on back, returning to the stream. We'd love to have more and more of you. So again, thumbs up, and of course, any subscriptions to the YouTube channel. And I did pin on my Twitter there. The YouTube link is there in case it's easier for you to ask questions. It looks like some Twitter questions are coming in, so great. If it's working, awesome. But if they're not, the YouTube link is there, since we do get a lot of you guys coming in from Twitter over there. Krana, my man, what's up? Pick 1. Chip. Oh, we got some good flavors here. Barbecue, sour cream, and onion, cheddar, flamin' hot, or sweet and sour chips. Call me boring. I love a good salt and pepper chip, by the way. I know that's not one you asked. I'm just going to toss it out there, though, especially like the rigid one. Those are great to me, the Cape Cod salt and peppers. But I love any type of cheddar chip as well. I'm a cheese guy through and through. So if you get me cheddar and sour cream, cheddar, hot cheddar, whatever it might be, you get some cheese and flavor on that thing, and I'm going it all day of the week. Flex 2 PPR. Zamir White, DeMarcus Robinson, Jawan Jennings, Isaiah Likely. This is a really good one from Krana here. I am leaning DeMarcus Robinson as the clear number 1 receiver. I guess I didn't put the note that, of course, I think you guys know at this point, Cooper Kupp is out. I should have actually covered this. So I'll use Connor's question here. I love DeMarcus Robinson. I think he's the stand over here, my wide receiver 35 on the week. So certainly locked into most lineups for me as the most comfortable guy with Matt Stafford. But ultimately, I do think if anyone's going to truly blow up and play a Kupp role, play a Puka Nacua role, it is Jordan Whittington, who had those 12 catches, 144 yards in the preseason, looked like that next great guy making those tough yard after the catch type of grabs, contested grabs. They're designing carries for him. He scored a touchdown on a carry in week 1 that got called back by a penalty. I think that Whittington really could be that type of Cooper Kupp role. Is he Cooper Kupp? Of course not. Is he Puka Nacua? Probably not either. But I do think, based on the skill set we saw in the contested type of carries and catches, rather, and the way that he can block you out of the building, that's another thing that's going to keep him on the field. I'm a really big Whittington fan. He's out there in nearly every single league And if you're desperate for a starter, I would play like Jawan Jennings over him as a safer play. But as like a stash, I'm all about Whittington this week. Just double checking. I've got to bump him up my rankings quite a bit. I realize I do not have him nearly as high as I should. I'd rather have him than like Brandon Cooks, Darnell Mooney, Andre Yoshevitz. So as I look here over the Packers guys, Jordan Whittington jumping up to, I think, even over Judy and not over Quentin Johnson. I'd take Quentin Johnson over him. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by this Jordan Whittington cat. So, Cron, thanks. I used your question as kind of an excuse to break down the Rams receivers, which I should have done. I'm not a Tyler Johnson guy, though. I guess that's the last kind of feather in the cap at this point. I'm happy to trust DeMarcus Robinson. He's the safest play. Jordan Whittington, the ceiling play. And, of course, it's going to be Tyler Johnson that goes off now. But for me, he's like the odd man out here. In terms of your question, I would go it's PPR. I'm going to go Robinson and Jennings myself. I think Zamir White could definitely rebound. The Panthers matchup looks great on paper. They say, the coach speak is good. They want to get it rolling this week. All that leans well to him, and maybe you go with it. But at this point, outsnapped by Alexander Madison, game flowed out, and what if the red rifle comes out firing here, and Zamir White gets game flowed out yet again? So I would lean here DeMarcus Robinson and Jawan Jennings of these options, Chrono. Flex 1 PPR, deep league guillotine. Downs, McMillan, Whittington, Ray Davis. Well, you just heard my rant on Whittington, so let's keep it going. I'm definitely going to go Whittington on that case. Someone offered me Olave and Ford for Chase. I think it's a bad deal. I would definitely keep Chase. He's about to have 50 points against the Washington Commanders. So if you really want to trade the guy, just wait till after this week and watch his value spike to the moon. Ford, you got, 2-3 more weeks till Chubb is maybe back. Olave, I think is a good buy low here, but this one's not even close, Chrono. Christian Kirk, Flowers, Charbonnet, A. Jones, Bucky, Jennings, Shaheed, or Thomas. I feel like you got to start eliminating some of these guys, but the fact that you can only get one of these guys in is criminal here. I'm leaning the way they're designing looks for Flowers, like clear alpha above either of the tight ends at this point. A lot of the dink and dunk, but his A dot is going up, which is what I wanted to see after week 1, and it's happening. So I'm going to go Zay Flowers as my favorite option. I have a lot of really good options. Dare I say Shaheed's like the next highest, though, in that shootout style game? I love it. Shaheed or man, this is blender. 2 deep threats that I love, 2 explosive guys. I'm leaning Shaheed, though. Back-to-back weeks with a 50-plus yard touchdown. And it's not just the deep looks, getting a lot of designed easy touches as well. And we haven't seen this team get fully pushed yet. They've had no reason to keep the gas pedal down in the passing game. So I'm going to go Shaheed. He's actually a top 20 wide receiver for me this week. I'm a huge fan of him. Deontay or Shakir, which running back PPR? D. Henry, B. Rob, or Jerome Ford? I'm going to go D. Henry. I'm going to keep riding him out. We just saw Kamara destroy this Cowboys team. Not that they're comparable skill sets or offenses, really, but yeah, I'm going to keep riding Henry. I know it hasn't been the best, but he's scoring for you. So keep it going. Akers or Carson Steele? How many questions we getting in here? Toss a little something if you're going to ask 30 questions. But no, I love it. It gets the interaction going early. I'm just messing with you. Akers or Carson Steele? I lost Pacheco and Mixon out this week. Bad luck. I would definitely go Akers, as we talked about, for all the reasons already cited. Love all the food questions, by the way. Kind of the chip questions, always a burner. You're a legend coming in, so I don't mind you asking 18 questions because you're always here. You're an OG, and it gets it going. It really does. So I love it. No Kittle. Only options at tight end PPR. Strange, Jonnu, Gasecki, or Ertz. Thanks for answering all the questions, Wolf. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Krana, as well. Let me know how you're feeling, too, about today's game against the Colts, because I don't know which one to do in my pick'em league. I have the Bears right now, though, but Caleb Williams definitely disappointing through 2 games. No doubt about it. Of these, punts at tight end, and we did have Ravi, I believe it was, cover this at Road Street Journal. If you have to punt a tight end, who are you going with? So, again, RoadStreetJournal.com, all our written content where we break down a lot of this in more detail. We have a Whittington article. We have Cam Akers article. And we did have a tight end streamer article all published on Friday this week. So, fresh, up to date with the news here. Go check out RoadStreetJournal.com for more depth. For me personally, I rule out Jonnu right now with Skylar Thompson. And now that T's back, I like the matchup, but this is a good one. I think I might leave Zach Ertz, as gross as it is, He's right back there in the Cliff Kingsbury. I'm going to feed you like 8 targets a game and you're going to catch 6 of them. And in full PPR, like as gross as it is, that's pretty bankable. So it's unexciting, but I think I'm going Zach Ertz. Tien Win, great to see you, brother. JSN or Jerome Ford? I'm going definitely JSN. And you're not sitting, you do not dare sit Tyreek Hill. I get it. We already talked about it, averaging, almost under 50 yards a game, no touchdowns in his 3 games with Skylar Thompson. Did still see 9 targets and 5.3 catches. We know he just needs to break one big one. I do feel a little bit comforted, too, that they signed Tyler Huntley, who was a very, very capable backup to Lamar Jackson for many years. It won't be a long leash here for Skylar Thompson with him also on the roster. And I do think we might get that call as early as today at some point, and I'll feel a lot better about all these weapons once I do see Tyler Huntley. I'm going to go JSN, though, the man of 16 targets, the man of 12 catches. And I know the secondary for Miami is pretty good, but they've actually given the 13th most points to slot receivers specifically, which is where JSN spends the vast majority of his time. So I'm definitely going JSN. I'm fired up myself to be playing him today. Tien, sit 1. Robinson, Downs, or Singletary? I'm going to sit Downs. I would like to see him before I trust him. Love rostering him. Happy to have him on my bench. Let's see what we got here, huh? But I don't want to play him. One, you got the Anthony Richardson concerns that have been tanking. A.D. Mitchell have been taking Michael Pittman, a 3rd-round pick in many leagues, not for us. We call him a big bust. Hopefully you dodged it yourself. But yeah, I can't trust Downs at this point. Whereas Singletary, it might be ugly against Cleveland. You're going to get 15 looks. You hope one of them gets you into the end zone. We shall see. And I love Demarcus Robinson as the number 1 for Matthew Stafford, the kingmaker for wide receivers. What's up, man? Eric, what's going on? Gesicki or Parkinson? Oh, I'm debating this one myself, man. And I honestly, so I think if I know outside factors, I would probably play Parkinson again with all these banged up weapons there in with the Rams. Whereas you got like Higgins returning because like he was already still only about 50% of snaps despite the big day. So I worry more about Gesicki. So I have Parkinson. I'm choosing between these two in my own league, and I'm going to probably go Parkinson. The one thing I would toss out there is in my league, I have like this running back, like log jam of handcuffs that I don't want to cut any of these guys. Jaylen Warren, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Samaje Perine, those types. And I'd like to see how things go at least before I cut them. And so Gesicki doesn't play till Monday. And I know on Yahoo, you can kind of wait it out. And if somebody scoops him just to kind of block you, well, Brenton Strange is going to be out there. So I think one of my strategies might be to cut my tight end for now and just see how it goes. I could also cut Njoku's on my bench, but I'm starting Parkinson. Like I kind of want to keep Njoku for whenever he comes back. So that's the one thing. Like I don't have Parkinson significantly above Gesicki. 1-to-1, yeah. But if it gives you the flexibility to potentially stash someone you would have been able to stash, Jalen Wright getting cut out there in a lot of leagues. Again, the guys I just mentioned in terms of Bucky Irving and all those different ones. I would maybe lean to Gesicki for that roster flexibility if you're able to churn. Yahoo, I know, allows it. Not every league does, though. But 1-to-1 in a vacuum, it is Parkinson for me. Defense, Green Bay, Titans, or Bengals. I like Green Bay. They've been really tough as a defense. We know how turnover prone that Will Levis has been. I mean, I got to ride that one out here for me. And we got the old Desperado helping out. Love that. I'm going to definitely be on the lookout for people who are helping each other out. It's so appreciated. It's awesome that you guys answer each other's questions and help each other out in the chat there. I'm not going to pull up everybody helping each other out, though. I want to keep sifting through the questions, but I see it. I recognize it. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, everybody else here, just hanging out, asking your questions, watching the stream. We are getting close, dang close here. We haven't even hit the first hour yet, and we are at 9:21 live viewers. Let's go. You love to see it. It can help us keep getting out to more with that thumbs up button, the likes, the shares, the retweets. I wouldn't keep asking if it didn't help us out so much. And it is just so easy, just one little click, and it really does go such a long way. And of course, any new subscribers to the channel, we'd love to have you. Great to again see some new names returning, and of course, all the old faces that have been here for 8 years. Love to see you guys just as much, maybe a little more. You're my favorite. You've been here forever. Like Hen Dog, I know you've been here forever. Let's go, Wolfpack. You okay to spot me here? PPR. Pick 2, Foreman, QJ, Gus, or Taysom. So Taysom's not playing, so we've now cut this down to 3 options. And for me, I'm going to go QJ and Foreman. Gus is going to get his work, and Gus, I was so in on Gus Bus this year, and I am so quick to jump off the bus. He looks abysmal, slow. Dobbins is definitely Gus is out carrying him, so you're getting the volume there. The bet wasn't wrong in terms of like what's getting usage wise. The bet was wrong in that Gus looks just like a complete and utter train wreck. Slow, fat. I say as I get a bag of donuts later today. But no, Foreman and QJ, I think are QJ for sure excites me. The 32% target share last week, 86% of the routes. Like he's emerged as the number one receiver for Justin Herbert. Now, I would say Hemdog. The only thing, I mean, dude. So one thing I gotta toss out there is like if Easton Stick is starting, you can't go QJ and you can't go Gus because that offense is just god awful. You got to cut somebody and pick something up. And I'm just going to toss out a couple for you. Like Whittington was the one I've already like continued to hammer. Love Whittington. If what's his name, Juwan Jennings is out there, I'd have him well above even Quentin Johnson at this point. Whittington I'd have above probably Foreman and Gus anyways. So rather than like leave yourself at risk of having to maybe deal with Easton Stick today, I would definitely get some roster depth on there. Of course, I'm guessing Samaje Perine, Akers, those type of guys are long gone. We should have seen the news on Friday when your boy tweeted out that article. Maybe he was long gone in your league too. Who knows? I picked him up on a lot of Thursday nights. I should have tweeted out sooner. But yeah, get yourself some backup plans here because if you don't want to Chargers offense with Easton Stick, any piece, whether it's the runner or the receiver there. But for right now, I would go QJ and Foreman of these options. Whittington above Foreman, though, if he's out there. My man, Austin, what's going on? And I love it. You and Anthony Fella, baby, constantly going back and forth. Some of the earlier Wolves that seem to be year in and year out facing each other in the finals. Love it. You guys are the best. Again, thanks for being here for as long as you guys have. Traded Mason for Pickens in our dynasty. Thoughts? I love it. I mean, dynasty is a tricky beast. And I do play in a couple dynasty leagues, so I'm starting to get a better sense of what's good and what's bad. And I look at Pickens, I just see a talent that is only getting better and better. That I could see the Steelers crafting their passing game around sooner than later. They already kind of are. It's like how valuable is Justin Fields' offense? Maybe not. But to me, I am so into Pickens as a long-term player. And you look at some of the metrics on Fantasy Points Data Suite in terms of like average separation per target and the efficiency metrics. And after the catch, he's better than people give him credit for. I'm a huge fan. So yeah, I'm doing Pickens in Dynasty over Mason 10 out of 10 times. As good as Mason has looked, and I think he does have some real Dynasty value now. The 49ers aren't going to just like completely erase him even when McCaffrey's back, but like he's going to go back to a clear number 2. And maybe he becomes the featured back of the future once McCaffrey's done, but I don't know that you're banking on a lot. Like Shanahan loves to churn new faces into that backfield all the time. So I think you absolutely played it off well. Changing your sleep schedule to catch my favorite dude's show on my Sunday mornings. Hearts, indeed. Hearts back to you, baby. Love to see it, Austin. Thank you for coming on in for us. Johnny Gibson needs some help. Flex, Etienne, JMO, or Neighbors. Also, Pitts or Goddard, full PPR or both? Good question. Probably not both tight ends. I'll tell you that's the easy one, especially if it's over any of those other guys. To me, I can't bench Neighbors, and Etienne, no Tank Bigsby is most likely the case here. So I think I'm going to lean Neighbors and Etienne. Man, I love JMO too, and I love that game, the Cardinals Detroit shootout. That's brewing, and I think JMO's just a different beast this week. But you could definitely go JMO Neighbors and just bench Etienne because even without Bigsby, like he hasn't been great. The Bills aren't the best of matchups. Yeah, I'm going to go JMO and Neighbors. That's what my gut said right from the jump, and I'm going to follow it. Let's go JMO, let's go Neighbors, and I'm going to go Pitts. The Chiefs are getting destroyed by tight ends so far. 220-plus days for tight ends on the year. Wide receiver 1 and 2, and running back 2 and flex. All righty. DJ Moore, Alec Pierce, Calvin Ridley, Dell, or Judy, Kyron, Ford. So you asked Kyron twice here, so I'm going to go with the third Kyron Williams on here. But you're going Kyron Williams, Jerome Ford. because you don't have an option. I don't know who the third option is. Typo. All right, I'll just pull this up for you. Here we go. So for the running backs, I'm going to go Josh Jacobs and Kyron Williams. For the two receivers, I'm going to go DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley. And then the flex, to me, it comes down to Tank Dell or Jerome Ford. And I'm going to lean Tank Dell. And maybe I'm just I love punishment, but I have always loved Tank Dell. I think he's just due for that eruption, and I don't want him on my bench when it happens. So I'm going to keep going back to the well with Tank Dell myself. But Ford, if you want a safer play, would be the other guy. What's up, Michael? I'm great to see you. And we got Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy, who has the biggest day. I got to go Zay Flowers at this point. Worthy definitely could have the bigger day. There's the higher ceiling to Worthy, no doubt about it, given what we saw in week 1. But like Flowers, you can bank on your 10 targets. You can bank on the usage. He's getting the low ADOT stuff that you're getting the layup looks, but now they are expanding him to the deeper levels of the field too. And once you unlock that game, which he's always had, they just haven't used him that way. But now that it is finally getting unlocked, it is off to the races for Zay Flowers. So the safer play to me is definitely following that volume. And I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. I have about like 7 spots higher than Xavier Worthy. So we got that for one. And now we're going to Gerald Alvarado. Thoughts on T. Higgins? Yeah, my thoughts are Washington secondary. Play the man, right? He's my wide receiver 28, so he's not without risk. He could ultimately, hammy flares up or whatever it might be. There's risk to him. There's no doubt about that, Gerald. But to me, it's worth the risk is likely to be worth the reward when you're facing that secondary. Bruce K. After all those years, I finally have connected the dots that Dookie Bruce is Bruce K. So great to finally recognize that. You've been here from day one, man. I don't know how I didn't realize that, because we interact on Twitter all the time. I didn't realize that this was you on the YouTube too. So good to know my man is hitting both ends of the stick here. I really, really appreciate it. I'm playing Higgins. I'm going to have Yoshevich in case. Yeah, he's already ruled in Higgins, so you're playing him over Yoshevich for sure. Waddle or Carson Steele. Okay, so I already said I'd do Akers over Waddle. Do you go to Carson Steele over Waddle? Now it gets trickier, huh? Man, I think I do go Carson Steele. And I know I've already said I like Perine. I prefer Perine. But, what are you getting from Waddle today? Maybe Skylar Thompson shocks the world. But just, again, to reiterate the averages with him at QB, with Skylar Thompson in 3 games, Waddle averaged 5.3 targets, 3.7 catches, and 37 yards. I just don't think I need that in my lineup. I'd rather see, does Carson Steele get 15 carries, the goal line guy? Any of that works out in your favor, and you got yourself a nice running back too. I think it's Perine, but again, I'm saying that with about 55 to 60% confidence that it's Perine versus about 40 to 45% confidence it's Carson Steele. And we'll know. And once it flips, and you have the right guy, Carson Steele would be immensely valuable. So yeah, I think I lean for Carson Steele in this one, Bruce K. Maybe Thompson surprises, but I'm not banking on it myself. Fields or Minshew for Quincy Davis. That's a tricky one because the knee-jerk reaction is always, all right, Fields. He's mobile, and you got a Konami upside, and you got to go with that. And I probably do ultimately lean that way. But you see Minshew, he's got Carolina. He's got the second most passing yards in the league right now too, and they are surprisingly one of the more the second highest in pass rate over expectation so far. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. So Minshew does bring quite a bit more to the table than I think he's given credit for. This is a tricky one, though, because I still feel like I almost would just go and see if Fields can run for 2 touchdowns. It's just not how he's getting used right now, though. This is definitely a tricky one. I'm going to lean Fields myself, though, Quincy Davis. White, Robinson, McMillan. I don't know how many you need here, Bruce, but I would rank them the exact order you typed them. Assuming that's Rashad White, I think is in a really good spot. Getting kind of overlooked this week in a great matchup against Denver. Detroit shuts down everybody, so I'm not worried that he got shut down last week. I do think Irving's going to be involved much more than White had to deal with anybody last year. But I still like Rashad White. And then DeMarcus, I love as the number 1 for Matthew Stafford. So to me, McMillan, a great Hail Mary to have on your bench. Let's see how it develops. And certainly if an injury happens to either of those guys, you've hit gold. But for right now, he's by far the lowest bet to see any volume whereas the other two are almost guaranteed to be focal points of their attacks. Pick 2, flex, Pitts, Cam Akers, Coleman, Zamir White. I am leaning here, Cam Akers, and I think Zamir White. I don't love White on the season, but man, if you can't use him against Carolina, you ever going to use him? So I think, and they've already talked about trying to get him going today. So I like Akers and I like White there. Michael asking Whittington or Worthy, who has the bigger week 3. You got to go Worthy there. And I love Whittington. I've talked about it. Could Worthy be outscored by Whittington if he gets that Cooper Kupp role, as I think is very realistic? Yeah, he could. But I'm going to go Worthy. You saw this guy put up 20 fantasy points on just 4 touches, and that's the risk. Only 4 touches. It's also the reward. He can put up 20 points on just 4 touches. He is so electric, such a dangerous threat with the ball in his hands. And I think with Rashee Rice continuing to emerge as the number 1, coverage will allow Worthy to do some big things eventually. Thank you, Bruce. Ultimately answering a ton of questions here. So yeah, I love to see that. It looks like I think you double answered this or double asked this one here. But I'm just I think I only answered the first part, Hem Dog. So I think I completely missed the second one. Pick 2, Akers, Warren, D. Robinson, Singletary. Keep smashing that like and subscribe. Indeed, Hem Dog. And so the first answer again went in long depth. Like you need a better backup situation in case Easton Stick's starting. For the second one though, Akers and Demarcus Robinson would be the plays for me. Dixie, Chuba, Akers, Steele, or Perine. I would lean here. I'm leaning Akers. I'm deciding between Akers and Perine myself in my own league, but I'm going Akers. So let's go with him. Cali Trader asking you guys on YouTube Live, and we are indeed. And I tweeted that out. It's at the top of my Twitter. So let me know, Cali, if you make it and what your name is on YouTube. Because I think you were one of the people that messaged me. Like it's a lot easier to ask questions on YouTube. So if you don't love the experience on Twitter, I know a lot of you guys are over there. We have over 1,000 of you with us right now, and a good amount of you, a healthy portion, are on Twitter. If you don't love the question asking experience there, by all means, please do pop on over to YouTube and be happy to take your questions on either platform. But yes, we are on YouTube, and it should be tweeted out on my Twitter right now about that. So thank you, Callie. Hopefully you made it over here if that's your preferred area to ask. But it does look like Twitter questions work because Brad Robertson asking Akers over Najee. And yeah, I do. To me, it's the math is I don't think either player are exceptionally explosive or like one guy wins out over the other efficiency wise. So with Najee getting a committee with Jaylen Warren, who got his role elevated a lot last week, I'll go for the guy getting the 30 touches, and the offense I think is better. So yeah, I do have Akers above Najee this week. And then Tunes, just adding that note too, as we went through the Thursday night recap, Ramondre dislocated his finger on that face mask call. Oh, brutal. Not only do you get the penalty, but you also break your fingers. Not fun at all. And we do have, 1037. We have well over 1,000. So awesome to see, guys. Wherever you are watching, that thumbs up button. I'll continue to ask for your likes, your shares, your retweets, all that stuff. Truly does continue to grow the channel. There's a reason we're at 1,036, and a lot of it is your guys' support and help with that free, easy click. I will just toss it out there that, in about, it is 9:18 rather, in about 40 minutes, I'm going to be signing off. So at like the 9:50 mark, I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to go rapid fire and get through as many as I can. Most mornings we can get through all the questions. I think we might be able to today, but it is a loaded show with, again, over 1,000 of you here with us. So if you want a guaranteed in-depth answer, slow down the clock and answer, the super chat's a way to cut the line and make sure you get it on in. And it also supports your play. I can't understate that it's just so greatly appreciated whenever you guys are willing to do that. We already had 5 of them today. It's so greatly appreciated. But for now, we shall continue forward, and that free way to support your boy is that thumbs up button. Mackenzie Crawford, start 2, Nico Collins, Rashee Rice, Jordan Mason, full PPR. Good Lord, Mackenzie, your roster is absolutely stacked. I'm going to go Jordan Mason and Nico Collins, and that's no disrespect to Rashee Rice, who I absolutely love as well. I just love the other 2 options more is really what it breaks down to. And especially in full PPR, it's so scary to bench Rice. He's in that Amon-Ra like layup role. But how do you bench Collins? 30 and 25 points back to back. Like the guy is a monster. He's the true alpha. He has his 3 big mouths to feed, and each and every week Collins continues to come through and get it done. And Jordan Mason, 25 carries today with everybody else around him injured. Can't bench that either in this zone scheme. Carr or Purdy. I have Mason in my flex if that matters. I'm going Carr. Mason doesn't change things for me just because maybe he does catch one from Purdy, so it's not like a matter. They're going to nibble each other all day. I just like Carr more. The way that this offense is absolutely cooking right now, and Purdy losing a bunch of his weapons. To me, I'm going to go Carr because I think that game just goes absolutely crazy. 18 standard. I'm using Breece Hall and Gibbs in my running back spot. Who to flex? Yeah, and I would agree with those two. I don't know how you could not have those two in your lineup. James Conner, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Xavier Worthy, Brian Robinson, or Waddle. Great squad here, Sports Dog. I'm leaning. I talked about it that Detroit's a terrible matchup for backs. So Conner makes me nervous this week, but he is just such a beast when he is healthy. He's a clear-cut workhorse. And all the receivers do have some boom upside, no doubt about it. But I'd rather just ride out the 15 to 20 carries, probably going to get like 3 to 4 catches as well. And Connor's a great at the goal line. All they got to do is get down there. And I think they're going to get down there quite a bit. So even though the Lions are a great run team, I think you're still getting at least 1 touchdown out of Connor and a bunch of touches. Do I start Akers or Steele? He's so conflicted, AI News, and I'll help you not be so conflicted. I'm going Akers, and I'm going Akers pretty easily myself. My running back, 23, feel phenomenal about him. And Steele just, to me, there's far more question marks about what is Akers, or what is Steele's workload compared to Akers' workload. I feel like as long as this game stays competitive, or especially if the Texans are winning, you're going to get 20 touches out of Akers. Steele, maybe the lead guy. And if it turns out that he was the lead guy, he probably has a higher ceiling than Akers. But my bet's on Samaje Perine myself there. So either way, you don't have those questions for Akers. So let's ride it out. Start Charbonnet or Etienne this week. That's a pretty dang good one. My mind tells me you should go Etienne, especially with Bigsby banged up. But again, he was one of those guys we called one of the busts of second rounds. We don't really want him. He has scored a touchdown in back-to-back weeks, though. Like it's been underwhelming, but he's gotten there close to Charbonnet. Though you're getting 20 touches, like in a pretty good matchup here against Miami. I'm gonna lean Etienne still, though. Buffalo's definitely a little more susceptible on the ground. So yeah, we'll go Etienne there, Troy. CJ, full PPR. Would you start Travis Etienne or Jamison Williams? This is a really tough one because I love JMO, and then you got the full PPR going. I think I'm just going to keep riding the JMO train. He does have the far bigger risk of just like disappearing on you for a week, though. So like keep that in mind, CJ. As much as I love the 11 and 9 targets across the last 2 games after he had not seen over 3 or fewer targets in like 95% of his games through the first couple seasons. And now he's a completely different role, and he is absolutely thriving. And it doesn't surprise me after what we saw at Alabama. This guy is damn talented. So I'm loving JMO. I think this is a different role that is not going to have nearly as many of those disappearing acts. But like if he did just go in the thin air 1 week, like that wouldn't shock anybody. Whereas Travis Etienne, you're going to get 15 touches. Like there's going to be work. You're going to probably get 11 to 12 points. But to me, JMO has that like 20-point wreck your week, crush your opponent type of upside. And I'm going to go that in most cases. In another half PPR, Khalil Shakir, Ladd McConkey, or Jaden Reed lost Kupp. I think I'm going Khalil Shakir here. He just seems like the move the chains guy. The risk with him is always like if the Bills are blowing the doors off teams, in the past they would like still just keep Josh Allen slinging and say, screw you, we're going to pound on the points. But they've now become a very run-heavy team with the lead, and we saw that on at least through 2 games. That's what they did in week 2. So Shakir had a great game, 5 catches, 50 yards. Most of them were in the first half, and then he just they didn't need him. They didn't need to throw, and I think they had like 5 pass attempts in the entire second half, something like that. So it's not Ladd McConkey to me. It does come down to Reed versus Shakir. When Love plays, it's obvious, but without Love, it is tricky. Reed is just so explosive and crazy that like you want the ceiling, you could go for him. Like he's much more likely to break one long score than Shakir ever is. But in 7 to 8 out of 10 situations, I'm going to go Shakir here and just hope that the Jags keep this game competitive. Maybe that's too big of a wish. The Jags are just garbage. Half PPR. Should I start T. Higgins first game back or Shaheed? I'm going Shaheed, Dan. He has just been so lights out. I am not benching him. And it's not like it's just been a fluke long touchdown. Yeah, that's obviously buoyed the massive ceiling we're seeing from Shaheed. But he's getting involved in every facet at every layer of the field. So I'm going Shaheed. I do get what you're saying now, though, when you have Olave, like, oh, do I double stack this thing in DraftKings? Yeah. And that's where I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, if some of the sharpest minds going for the biggest paydays are double stacking, why can't you? I would go Shaheed and Olave. Let's see what Higgins does. The matchup is juicy. It's tough to keep him on the bench, especially when you're starting two guys from the same team. But I think against a bad Philly secondary, what better time to do it in a game that shoots out potentially too. So yeah, I'm going to go Shaheed there. Jeff Marks, what up? Good morning. Pick two guys, full PPR. Zamir White, Terry McLaurin, Rashid Shaheed, Calvin Ridley, Brian Thomas, or Deontay. We need two of them, and I'm going to go Shaheed and Ridley as my favorite two. Thomas would be a close third, and Deontay would be the fourth for me. So yeah, I'm down on Terry right now. Sucks because I was very in on him in the preseason, but you guys just play with what hand you're dealt, and it does not look like a good one, even though they're talking about force feeding in the rock today. But I'm not benching Shaheed with the hot streak he's on. Ridley looks great as well. Somebody tweeted out, I want to give him credit, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's like a Jacob Gibbs type tweet, but I don't believe it was him. It was something about, it might have been Ryan Heath, a great fantasy points follow. He tweeted out somebody tweeted out, it was Calvin Ridley, he's run 86% of his routes out wide, and that the Packers are giving up a top 3 amount to outside wide receivers right now. So I love Ridley in general. They're getting him carries. They're moving him around. I'm a very big fan of Ridley right now. Was entering the year and still am. All righty, Danny B. At PPR, should I start Jonnu, Parkinson, or Ertz? I think when you're kind of getting down this gross, why not stack up the QB? And Ertz, especially, it's half PPR, so he gets a little bit less appeal. In a vacuum, I would say Parkinson's my favorite play here. But when you have the QB, you might as well just go for it and hope they connect for a touchdown. But I would say I do have Parkinson higher, and I'm intrigued to see what he does without Kupp today too. So I guess I just go Parkinson. I don't think the stack, the Ertz stack, is that groundbreaking here. Rashid Rice, Sport Dog, Rashid Rice, McLaurin, Pickens, Dobbins, Warren, or Robinson. Thank you for using Humanus. You're welcome. Happy to help, brother. Got to go Rashid Rice. There's no doubt about that. That's the lock-in one here. Then it gets tough. Like all those guys you can make cases for. I think the only one I'm completely ruling out is Jaylen Warren for right now until, he do kind of probably need an injury. You can make a case for all these guys. To me, I think Brian Robinson is the one that keeps coming up to me. I do like George Pickens too. I would say Rice is the lock, and then it comes down to Pickens or Robinson. I think I'm leaning Robinson. He just looks so good and playing all the inside the 10 snaps, which is huge, getting more receiving work than expected. Like the Austin Eckler, yeah, he's playing, but the concern is much less than I probably had it at in the preseason. So I think I'm going with Brian Robinson and Rashid Rice here. But if you wanted to fire up Pickens for a little bit of a higher ceiling, I couldn't blame you. Eric Fortis, start Brock or Lamar. Oh, you got to go Lamar. This is your 4th round pick, your 3rd round pick, runs it all the time. Yeah, let's go. Team Lacerda, start Ford, Akers, or Swift. I'm going Akers there. And then I hate Swift. I think Swift I never liked him. Never been really that burned by it either. I'm going Ford. I'm going Akers. I'm going Ford. Akers kind of my favorite of these as well. Just never been a Swift guy. That offense doesn't look great. He doesn't look great. And it's a timeshare. And Herbert's coming in for the touchdowns. So, yeah, give me Akers. Give me Ford. Do I start Zach Moss or Ford for Juicy J? Zach Moss got 80% of the workload and snaps last week. I got to kind of ride that out right now, especially against a Washington team they could do some damage against. So, yeah, give me Moss over Ford. because Ford, 42% of the snaps and 28% of the carries last week. That scares me. As good as he looked, that scares me. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. My man Campanelli reminding me, doing the Lord's work, to make sure to plead for your likes, your approval. I need them. No, it's beyond this approval, which is nice too. It does truly help the algorithm. It's why we're approaching 1,100 of you live with us right now, which is so awesome, so greatly appreciated to have you here. Send us to the moon, get us to 5K subscribers. Yeah, let's keep the new bodies. A lot of new names today that I don't normally see. Hit that sub button. We're live 3 to 4 times a week answering your questions. We'd love to have you here permanently. Purdy crumbles when he doesn't have his stars around him. I mean, Jack, it's not an unfair point by any means. Higgins or Bowers super flex. Oh, who's your tight end, Jack? Like, how is Bowers not your tight end? I almost say, like, so the only tight end I have higher than Bowers this week is Trey McBride. So if you have Trey McBride, okay. Otherwise, Bowers is my tight end too. And it's pretty easy for me to rank him as my tight end too. So let me know who your tight end is. But I think to me, this almost becomes more of like a Higgins versus who else type of question, because Bowers should be in your lineup. And if it is Trey McBride and it's Bowers versus Higgins, I'm going to go Bowers. I'm that high on this guy right now. OBJ needs 2 spots filled. Pollard, Rashad, or DeMarcus. I probably lean the running backs here. I do like DeMarcus Robinson, but again, like, what if his role just doesn't change that much? Could he be the number one and he has the pre-established rapport? All that's very true and gives him a good narrative this week. But it's also the world that's like, yeah, but he's the big field stretcher, and that's going to be his role, and he's got value in that role, but he's going to really be capped at like what we already saw last year. And Jordan Whittington is the guy that comes in and takes over, right? So give me the 15 to 20 touchbacks over him for right now. Josh Allen or Kyler Murray for Joel Kwame. I got to go Josh Allen. Trade one of those guys. I'd rather trade Murray than Allen because I prefer Allen on my squad, just like 30-point upside each and every week. But you should get some value either way, and like you could probably get more for Allen. So either way, try to deal one of them. But I'm definitely going Josh Allen. Like 10 out of 10 times, he's my quarterback one every week, and he's got a good matchup against the Jags too, even better. Gesicki or Ertz for Chase Pickard. I think I'm going Ertz. And I've answered that a couple times, and I don't know that I have Ertz higher in my rankings, which I want to make sure I do. Oh, no, I do have him. I have him at tight end 12. And in fact, I have him above Parkinson for whoever asked that question earlier, which I don't know if I fully agree with. So I'm gonna go Parkinson over Ertz. But now I'm gonna go Ertz over Gesicki too. Happy Sunday, Wolf. Let's get this dub. I agree, Giuseppe. Great to see you. An absolute regular every single week. Flex PPR, Monty, JMO, Chuba, or Cooper. It's Monty. It's JMO. I'm going with JMO. I'm firing up JMO this week. No doubt about it. It comes down to Monty versus JMO, but I'm going to go JMO myself, Giuseppe. And we did have a super chat coming on in, making sure to cut the line as we do get closer to rapid fire time, folks. Again, no pressure, but it's so greatly appreciated, and you get to cut the line and make sure you get your question answered. I should be able to get them all in the rapid fire, but it's not a guarantee. We shall see. But thank you so much, C-Dog. Greatly appreciate your support here. Ford or Moss, then Terry or Jennings, both PPR. I'm going Zach Moss. Again, we talked about Ford at the top of the show here, C-Dog, but it scares me that this guy, as good as he looked, 7 carries, 64 yards, 9.5 a carry, phenomenal. And maybe the coaching staff sees that. Maybe they go back to the well and say, we got to make this guy a featured back. Week 1, it was the featured back show for Jerome Ford. 73% snaps, 86% rushes, 18% targets. I mean, this would never have been a question after week 1. And then week 2 happens, and we get brutal 42% of the snaps, 28% rush attempts, 52% rush attempts going to Donta Foreman, 14 carries, 42 yards, a pathetic 3 yards a carry, but he was the main engine. And this does seem like the type of game that the Giants, are you going to really need to feed Jerome Ford against him? Probably not. Let's just give us some gross volume of Foreman. Let's establish a physical tone. I could see him going that way. So Ford does scare me more than I think he does a lot of people, despite the great Giants matchup here. So I'm going Moss, though. 80% of the touches, 80% of the snaps. And that's another one that's he doesn't look great with it. So at any moment, maybe they do decide, let's give Chase Brown the burn and see if he can get a hot hand instead. But from what we've seen so far, because they trust him more in pass protection, trust him in those red zone snaps, better shot at catches and touchdowns and just overall volume. So I'm going to go Moss, and then I'm guessing this is Juwan Jennings, and yeah, this is a good question. It's a good measuring stick moment for Jennings. Is do you just put him in there? You're talking about the number 2 passing game option in a Shanahan attack. I do think this is a game. As much as I like that narrative, it's true. It's what it is. There's also the rub of they might just give Mason the ball 35 times if they can. This run D is so bad for the Rams, and Shanahan's not afraid to play it ugly and just pound and pound and pound the rock. That I'll say though, Jennings will get some design looks here. They talked about wanting to force feed McLaurin as well, but I don't trust Kingsbury. Locking this guy into a static, 93% of the routes from the left side of the field, not moving him around, not designing anything special for the guy. Gun to my head, I think I do still go Terry here and hope that they do stay true to their word and try to get him more touches, but it wouldn't shock me if they don't. So I'm going to go Moss and I think Terry, but I will tell you this, Jennings is safer than Terry. You're putting me in a blender here, C-Dog, because especially the full PPR too, you can see the dink and dunk looks for Jennings, whereas the things they're designing for Terry are just so bad. Why not get him some easier layup targets? I don't know, but you know what? I think in a full PPR, I would go Jennings here. So Moss and Jennings, final answer. Good question, for sure. Thank you again for the super chat. And thank you, Doug Fenton, constantly coming in here with the super chats. So greatly appreciated. 1 running back, 2 WBs, whatever that is. No, I'm probably guessing a wide receiver, and 1 flex is, I think. Doug, I appreciate the super chat, so I don't want to dump on you too much, but this is, can we get some spacing? Can we type things out a little clearer here? Thank you so much. I mean, you're locking in Mason and Achane. You have to have those 2 guys in your running back in your flex spot. Whew, what a backfield, because you have Jacobs on the bench. My goodness. And then for the 2 wide receivers, Rice is 110% one of them. And I think I go Flowers with the other one. I don't love having to have both Chiefs guys in there. If you're going to do it, why not them? Although Mahomes has been vastly mediocre this year, fantasy-wise. I love BTJ. I love JSN. But I love Flowers even more. Getting the layup looks, but also now getting that expanded ADOT over the last couple of weeks, which we always knew, 15.6 yards per reception. Knew it was part of his game. Now it is it a part of his game? And that Dallas game, that has definitely shootout potential, no doubt. So I'm going to go Rice Flowers as the 2 receivers, and I'm going to go Mason Achane as the 2 running back and then the flex. Thank you so much, Doug, for the super chat too. You always are super chat, and it's greatly, greatly appreciated. Tyler, this is an interesting line draw moment for Jerome Ford. All those concerns I've expressed, I'm sure you heard them, so I don't need to completely belabor it again. But 28% of the rush attempts, again, that scares the crap out of me. And I do think this is a Rome game. You got no Keenan Allen. You got the dad tweeting out all the routes where Rome is wide open and not getting the ball. It just comes down, again, the expression I used earlier, we've got a squeaky wheel. Is Caleb Williams talented enough? Is he capable enough to grease the squeaky wheel? We haven't seen anything that really suggests he is. I don't like him. The way he blew off CJ Stroud trying to give him advice. I know that doesn't impact fantasy at all. But against the Colts secondary, this should be the coming out party for Rome, for Caleb Williams. There's a lot more risk with Rome that he just does nothing again. But to me, I'm going for ceiling and I'm going Rome. I think this is the coming out party for him this week, and I feel pretty good about that. So I'm gonna adjust my rankings here to make sure Roma Dunze. Yeah, I have him way too low. Yeah, I bumped him up big. I'm making a big stand that this is going to be a Rome week this week. So we shall see. But Ford is safe for Tyler. I will just say, I'm not trying to hedge. You're going to get probably 8 to 10 points. And if the coaching staff decides, we saw enough of Foreman last week, that was just painful to watch. Well, yeah, then maybe maybe Ford blows up. But to me, I just think Rome has that huge ceiling this week. And again, everybody out there, I would definitely check your waiver wire and see if he is out there. Alrighty, we have left off. I am finding our place. Thank you guys so much for those generous super chats. It is so greatly appreciated. We were left off at Josh Allen, K. Murray, Gesicki. Or we were at Giuseppe Russo, and then we got here Ford or D. Robinson. I'm going D. Robinson myself. We talk about both those guys a lot, and D. Robinson is the one I lean to. Charbonnet, so Chase is answering some questions. Love to see it. Lad McConkey, Romeo Dobbs, or Josh Downs. Can't say I love any of these guys, Giuseppe. Again, I'd go Jordan Whittington over any of them, who's probably out there in your league. I think Jawan Jennings over Whittington as well. You got to find something better than any of these three is my play. And I would, if I had to cut one of those three, I'd cut Downs first. Jay Williams, Rice, D. Smith, N. Not sure what the N is. This is a great question. I'm gonna go. I don't know how many you need, but I'll tell you. I rank them Rice, Devonta, and then Jameson. And I love all three though. We're struggling there. I see Norman Juta trying to get this question in quite a few times. So I don't know how many you need, what you go with, but Rice, D. Smith, Jay Williams is how I rank them. For PPR, would you go Waddle, Worthy, or Doomsday? I'm going to go I'm going to go Worthy there, Glenn N. Last week's bust was a little scary, but I think you got to just ride the waves because you're going to get some 30-point days, and tonight really well could be one of them. All right, Giuseppe Russo. Flex, half PPR, Javonte, Perine, or Dowdle. I'm going Perine of that. And let's see how this plays out. Z White or T Higgins, 2 flex or Steele. Okay, I'm going to bench Steele out of those ones, Joel, and ride T Higgins in that great Washington matchup. And I think White in the good matchup tonight too. Zach Moss or Rashad White? I'm going Rashad White for sure. I know Moss kind of took over that backfield, but I'm leaning Rashad White. I think the Denver matchup is very, very juicy. Sarah Riley, half PPR, need wide receivers and a flex. Pittman, Jaden Reed, Tank Dell, Cam Akers, and Najee Harris. Starting Olave, Kamara, and Bijan. Agree with your starts. Now we got to round it on out, huh? I'm going to go Cam Akers as the flex, and I'm going to go Tank Dell. I'm going to just go with the Houston offense. I don't like Pittman at all. Didn't want him this preseason, still don't want him. And Jaden Reed with Malik Willis, just like maybe he breaks one, but I don't think he does. So yeah, that's a tricky one. But I'm gonna go Dell and Akers. Start 2 receivers for the Smitty. London, Evans, Dell. I am gonna go. I get the whole narrative like Surtain on Evans. It's scary, but I can't bench him. They're gonna move him around enough. They get Evans on the slot plenty. I'm gonna go Evans. I'm gonna go London. I think this is one where I probably would bench Dell as much as I love the guy. As much as I don't want him on my bench when he blows up, and could it be this week? Absolutely. I got to go Evans and London, just safer bets to see 8 to 10 targets. Jose Amador. Do I drop Baker for Jaden Daniels? Have Burrow as a starter? Yeah, I'd rather have Jaden Daniels. I think the ceiling is higher. Baker, real life wise and fantasy wise, nice stable floor quality, but like Daniels with that rushing. If the passing comes, if this Kingsbury scheme can find some rhythm, I like Daniels longer term, for sure. Basic PPR 1 flex, Reed or Ladd. I'm going Jaden Reed in that case. Ladd is awesome. I love when he's out there. Looks really shifty, nimble after the catch, but I'd bank on Reed breaking the big play here over Ladd against the Steelers D. Although, I should toss out there, the Steelers for the last couple of years have been really bad at defending the slot. Like they've been known as a slot funnel defense, and that's where Ladd does spend his time. Now, if Justin Herbert doesn't play, then it's a moot point. You certainly do not even consider Ladd in said situations. But I still think I go Reed for the upside. But it's close. It's 39 and 41 in my rankings right now. Pick 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. Zamir White, Madison, Sutton, Kirk, Yoshi, or Jacoby Myers. I am going for the wide receiver. Why do you have Madison on your team? Don't really like any of these options. I do think we try Christian Kirk one more time this week. And then I'm going to go Zamir White over Madison for the flex. I like the Carolina matchup, and I prefer to play it through Zamir White myself. All right, 1,100 folks. Love to see it. And we are about 5 minutes away from I might actually start the rapid fire early 15 minutes because we have so many questions and I do want to mow through as many as I possibly can for you. So I'm going to light up the rapid fire right now, get the 15 minutes going. I know we were a couple minutes late, so I'm going to put it at 17 minutes, and I'm just going to get through as many questions as fast as I can. Again, you want to cut the line, make sure I get to you. That super chat's the way to do it, but a free way is your thumbs up button for your boy. So simple, easy to do. The likes, the shares, the retweets. It really does help us get out to more people. I so greatly appreciate you guys all being here for your Sunday mornings. I'm hitting the start button here. Thank you again, though. This is always the best. Let's get it, baby. Shaheed, London, or Pickens. I'm going Shaheed over both those guys, which is nuts. Swift or Akers. I'm definitely going Akers 10 out of 10 times IGX13. Lamar or Jaden Daniels, Giuseppe. It's definitely Lamar for me. Likely or Ferguson. I am going Ferguson today. They've clearly missed him, and I think they're going to be great. Which defense to stream today? Raiders, Packers, or Seahawks? I like the Seahawks against Skylar Thompson there over target media. Mind yours. Mind yours. Half PPR. Ingram's out. Likely starting spot, but not trusting his usage. With Andrews, should I stream a waiver? I would just go for the upside of likely in this case. Those other guys are all zero potential plays too. Why not go for likely, who we've seen absolutely erupt before? I am going to the Browns or Bills defense, and I love the Browns this week. You gotta love those Brownies against the Giants. I think they're going to go crazy. Steele, McConkey, B. Irving. Would you drop any of these to stash a Dunze? I would probably. Man, that's a tough one. Like I want to say drop Steele or McConkey because I really think Odunze does have a higher long-term ceiling than McConkey right now. And I do think Perine's the guy over Steele, but I think it's worth seeing how that plays out. I think I would drop probably McConkey today because I think he has a better chance of making it back to you. And then next week, if Steele's not the guy, which I don't think he is, you cut him and you try to get McConkey back. I do think I'd rather have a Dunze on my bench right now, though, is how I would play it. Morning, brother. What's up, Michael Lopez? Need one for the flex. Starting Rashad White and Dobbins. Do I go Akers or Rashid Shaheed? I'd go Rashid Shaheed for sure. And I love Akers this week, but Rashid Shaheed I am not benching anywhere. And I think I would go those other two running backs ahead of Akers as well. Tomas Medina from Panama. Great to see you. Flex Waddle or Javante. Man, there's no Akers. There's no Juwan Jennings. I don't want to play Waddle today. I really don't. I'm bumping Waddle down in the ranks because I have him at 31, and that's too high. I do not believe in him that much. And I don't believe in Pittman. Amari Cooper, I don't really like, but he gets the Giants, so maybe I'll like. Alrighty. I don't like Javante though. I don't like anything in this Broncos offense. Is there Demarcus Robinson? Is there a Juwan Jennings? I guess I'd go Waddle if I had to pick between these two. And you got the PPR, so maybe they get him into a rhythm. We'll see, but I don't know. Happy Sunday, Wolf. What up, Andres? Happy PPR. DJ Moore, Neighbors, Dobbins, B-Rob. You got to sit one, and I think I am sitting Dobbins. As crazy as that is, the leading rusher in the NFL. But the Pittsburgh matchup scares me. I think it's kind of a DJ Moore blow-up spot. Katie Jiggs, what's going on? Need a flex and receiver. Pollard, Dell, or Thomas Jr. I'm going to go Pollard definitely for the flex. Nice, safe, good matchup against Green Bay. Thomas versus Dell gets tricky, and I'm going to go Thomas. He just is the one making the big plays right now. I like that one. I'm go. All righty. Thank you, Dan B. Achan or Mason. I'd go McKenzie. I had Achan higher entering today. I think I still go Achan, but I'd be lying if I didn't say Mason's a little bit sooner there. But Smitty trying to tell me how to do my job. Thanks, brother. Maybe you should do your own stream and not waste your time here if you don't like how I do it. Andres. Also, tight end. I'm thinking Tremble. Maybe a good gamble with Dalton being prone. I don't know about that. I would go Strange or John or either one. I think you're overthinking it with Tremble there. Let me bump up. I'm bumping up right now. Kamara to my running back too. Thank you guys. In the middle of the rapid fire here. I just want to double check a couple of my ranking notes. I really love Jordan Mason this week, but I like Achan possibly even more. The top 6 running backs are great. It's phenomenal stuff. We did get a super chat. So Giuseppe, thank you for your support. Drop Chase Brown or Jay Downs for Whittington. I would drop Downs first. I still think there's a chance with how bad Moss has looked. He takes Chase Brown can get this backfield. So I would like to see how it goes this week against Washington, given how bad it's been for those guys. All righty, we were at the rapid fire. Thank you so much for the support there, Giuseppe. We were at Katie Jiggs, and then let's keep rolling here. Is Andres overthinking Tommy Tremble? Kickers are people too. Dicker, Group A, Chase. I'm going to go Group A and not give you any more analysis there. They're not really kickers. They're not really people. Receiver 1 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Crazy to start JMO over Olave. I do think I'd rather have, in that case, Olave over JMO rather than overloading on this, even though this is the right type of matchup to go for it. Ty Chandler or Foreman for DMB Rob. I would go Foreman there. I think it's a little bit safer volume. Half PPR, need 3 out of these 6. Akers, Worthy, Demarcus Robinson, Waddle, Higgins, Chuba. Thank you. I'm going to go Akers. I'm going to go Worthy, and I'm going to go T. Higgins there for sure. Always barbecue. Let's go. BBQ it on up. Joel, D. Robinson or Ford. I'm going to go D. Robinson there. Happy Sunday. Half PPR, need 2 for DJ Johnson. JMO, JSN, Cam Akers. I'm going to go this is a really good one. I think this is where I do bench Cam Akers. The ceiling of the other 2 is just so damn high. Patrick, PPR, Flex, Higgins, Waddle, or Akers. I'm going to go T. Higgins, and that's where you're leaning, so I like it. But it's not like he's going to be playing, so you don't have to worry about the stash there. Full PPR, need 2 with JJ locked in at wide receiver 1. London, Worthy, JMO, JSN, and Higgins. I would go JMO, and I think JSN over Worthy. Maybe London, though. I'm going to go JMO and London is how I read that one. It seemed like London finally kind of came to life. Full PPR, pick one. Godwin, JSN, Singletary, easy Godwin for me. I'm the biggest Godwin guy. I love that guy. Brian Thomas or Waddle. I'm going to go Brian Thomas. Easy there, Caleb. Nicholas, Akers or Zamir. I'm definitely going Akers there. DJ, full PPR, pick one. Lockett, Coleman, Tyler. I'm definitely going to go Coleman there. Now we're getting ugly. We're starting Cam Akers. Yes. Over Javonte. Yes. For Brandon there. Andretti, chat, pick 2. Kyron, Pollard, Charbonnet. I'm going to go benching Charbonnet there, but great options there, Andretti. Obviously not a set star question, but what are your thoughts on Amari Cooper? I am very worried. I just think Deshaun Watson is absolute butt cheeks, so I am worried. DK, King Retros asking. DK, Evans, Shaheed, Devonta, Calvin Ridley, start 3. Ooh. I'm going to go Devonta. I'm going to go Evans, and man, you got some great options here, King Retros. I think I go DK. Man, I love Rashid Shaheed. Like, how do you bench this guy? I mean, if you're worried, this is one where it's like I have Evans higher, but if you are worried about the Surtain, you've got some great options to kind of buoy that out. I'm gonna lock it in though at Devonta Smith for sure. Evans and DK are my favorite 3, but if you wanted to bench Evans for Shaheed, I think you could. Akers, Diggs, or Jennings. I am gonna go Akers. Yeah, geez, over Diggs, I guess so. 2 flex, Z White is optimized as starter. Have Higgins, Jennings, D Robinson, Steele. Who am I starter over White? I would go Higgins out of these guys. I'd go Higgins, and then I would go White, and then Robinson. DJ Moore or Jameson. I would go DJ. I'm going to go JMO, Chris Diaz. I'm riding the JMO train, even though I do like DJ Moore this week. I'm going to go JMO. Midward, London or Montgomery. I'm going to go London there. Unless it's standard league, and then of course it's Montgomery for the TDs. Zay Flowers, London, Devonta Smith, Higgins at you guys sit one. Yes, Higgins is the easy sit there, Tunes. Despite the great matchup, I'm sure I'll get a text from you on Monday when he has like 40 points because it's against Washington. He's also the biggest risk to have a flare up. A. Richardson or Watson? Definitely A. Richardson. I'd never want Deshaun Watson myself. Bears game starting more. Hope he breaks out. Dunze a flex. No Allen again. Pittman sucks today. Dropping him. I mean, if you can sell him for anything, get what you can. But yeah, I don't know. 17-14 Bears. We'll see. Newcomers, like, share, subscribe. The man's the best in the biz. Can't say I disagree, but no, I really, really appreciate that, Giuseppe. Would love to have so many new names here. Keep subscribing. We get this thing to 5,000 subs before we know it. Would be so awesome. It was a great climb to 4K. Would love to hit 5K sometime this season. That would be a joy. Brady's a Bluedy. Pick 2, Jawan Jennings, Brian Thomas, Shakir, Akers. I'm going to go Brian Thomas and Akers. Jennings would be my next closest, though. Burrows or Carr? I'm going to go Joe Burrow here. Great question, but I love that Washington matchup for you, Adriel. Bays, I'm going Akers over Ford, as has been asked often today. Alex Dotson, Akers, Swift, Jones. Pick 2, please. Nice manners, of course. I'm benching Swift. Do not like Swift at all myself. Never have. Never really burned me. Cooley, do I play Pittman, Chargers receiver Quentin Johnson, or Rams Tyler Johnson? I think I just go Pittman and hope for the breakout, but it's ugly. It's ugly. Hi, Wolf. What's up, Jose? Full PPR. Choose one. JSN, Zamir, BTJ. Oh, man, that's tough between BTJ and JSN. Love both. I think in a full PPR, I go JSN. Half, I'd probably go BTJ. But full, you get those dink and dunk bonus points. Like, yeah, I'm going to go JSN. Should I trade Jaden Daniels and Rice for Burrow and Higgins? No, I would not do that. Brian. Start Ford or Rome? I'm going to, like I said, Tyler, I think you super chatted me that one. I'm going to go Ford myself. Chase Brown, droppable. Oh, yeah, you already asked that. I think it's wait and see if you can. Because Moss just hasn't looked good. But, yeah, if it's another week at 80% Moss, it's like this is how it's going to be. Yeah, he's droppable after Monday. But if you can wait it out, you wait it out. I might not be able to, though. I might be dropping him myself just simply. Should I drop Jaleel for Carson Steele? Yes, PDR Santiago. 110% drop Jaleel for Carson Steele. No doubt about it. Thinking Rice is going to be suspended next year, so maybe a good move. I would keep Rice myself. The Rice and Daniels is what I want. Dynasty League, it is different, though. I don't know if it's a Dynasty. Full PPR, killing me. Full PPR, sit one. Etienne, Jacobs, Brian Robinson, JSN. I'm going to sit, I think, JSN. I'm going to sit B-Rob, the least to benefit from that full PPR. Higgins, London, Thomas, need 2. I'm going to bench Higgins there, Victor. Burrow or Carr? Adriel, stop repeating your question. I would go Carr. Start Akers or Aaron Jones, half PPR. I am going to go Aaron Jones, but he's the one guy I have just ahead of Akers myself. Give the people who want CJ's handsome face. Ben, I'd love to, but for whatever reason, we get way more views when it's a solo stream on the Sunday morning. So we're following the views, but maybe CJ could follow up with like a prop show or something after this. That could be great. Shaheed or Waddle? I would go Shaheed 10 out of 10 times. Ben Tomsick. Standard scoring, single, Trey Akers, Montgomery, drop Eckler or Hubbard to, I don't know what you're saying, man. I'm sorry. But I would go Akers over Singletary myself. Waddle or D. Robinson? D. Robinson for me, Peter Santiago. Burrows or Carr? I would go Burrows. Again, that matchup. Adriel, I'm going to have to put you in timeout. Too many repeats here. Drop Eckler or Hubbard for Akers? I would drop Hubbard. Yeah, I don't need anything in that backfield. Brooks going to be back as early as next week. I'm going to go London, Jaden. But if it's full PPR, I think I bump up JSN in that one. Do I play Pittman? Stop asking the same questions, please, guys. I'm going to get to them. Repeating your question does not help your chances. In fact, it will result in timeout time. Did I mess up not dropping J. Hill for Akers? Yeah, I would have probably done that, T-Lo. I don't think it's a huge mess up by any means. But I'd rather have Akers in over Najee, but they're close. They're close enough if you really love Justice Hill. But I just think Akers also has some long-term upside here if this becomes a multi-week injury, which it could be. Should I start Lamar? I'm going to go Lamar. I do think Derek Carr could go off too. You can trust your gut there, Isaac. But I also think Lamar might have to shoot it out with the Cowboys, which I love as well. 5-minute warning here. 14-team full PPR. Richardson or Baker? I'm going Richardson. Alec Pierce or Christian Kirk? Why not stack up the 2 with Alec Pierce in that case? And J.J. Adams, Connor Bowers. Nice team. Andre Alcrea. Javonte Williams or Donta Foreman? I would go with Devontae Foreman. I don't know what to make of this Denver's backfield, but it sucks. CJ or Carr? I'm going to go CJ, but it is really, really close. King Retros. I mean, you could definitely go Carr if you're feeling it, but I would keep Ryan Stroud. You super chat this one, and I would drop Josh Downs and pick up Winnington. And I would start him over either of those guys. Richardson or Baker, 6 point. 6 point does change it, Dwight Schrute. I think I might go Baker, safer a little bit there. I still probably roll out Richardson, though. Just a monster. Though that matchup's not great. I'm going Richardson. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go Akers over Z White. Go with your gut if you're leaning White, but I personally like Akers there. Singletary, Akers. So Singletary, Akers, Robinson, Warren, D-Rob. I would go Akers, and I think I'm going, I don't know if it's B-Rob as well. Like Brian Robinson would be my next choice. But if it's just D-Rob repeated twice, I would go DeMarcus Robinson. Samaje Perine, Whittington, or Naylor for Dwight Schrute. I am going to go Perine myself and roll those dice that I got the right Chiefs running back here. But I love all three of those. Those are like the best of the waiver wire guys for sure. Dwight Schrute, Akers, Singletary, Warren, and D-Rob. So he's got to fix that up. So it's Akers and D-Rob for me. Najee or Jerome Ford. I'm going to go Najee Dillon. I was offered T. Higgins and Javonte for Rico Dowdle. Yeah, I would take that. Get T. Higgins. Not with Shaheed in it. Nope, not at all. Akers, Javonte, or Hubbard. I would definitely go Akers today. No doubt about that. Alec Pierce, Najee, Quentin Johnson, Gus Edwards. I'm going to go Najee and Quentin Johnson there, assuming that he's in Justin Herbert. Cam Akers is Z White. Great stuff. So, Anthony, Shaheed was also part of that deal. So I do not think it's a smash accept anymore. I'm going Akers for sure. Love that you're in Dallas, Texas, watching. Great to get worldwide with some Panama and Australia. It's awesome. You guys are so cool to know where you guys are all coming in from. Who should I have rest of season? Warren or Perine? I Pacheco. You can wait till after 1 p.m. and then cut Warren if he does nothing. I would. But gun to my head, I had to make the decision right now. I would just see what Perine does. I'm more intrigued myself by Perine. Singletary or Higgins, flex PPR. I would go Higgins. Go for the blow-up upside there. Sky Berry, start 2. Diggs, Etienne, Flowers, thanks, man. I would bench Diggs out of those 3. Juwan Jennings, Waddle, or Shakir. I'm going to go Shakir. You're welcome, Joel. Thanks for all the good questions. Who to drop, start in a deep league? Zeke, Gus, or Bucky? Oh, I'm going to go Zeke, but no, that is ugly. Maybe Whittington, David, if he's there for you. Higgins, Shakir, Pittman, Neighbors. Which 2 to start? I am going to go Higgins, and I'm going to definitely go Neighbors 10 out of 10 times, always Neighbors. Playing against Godwin, that's why, maybe you bounce the floor out a little bit. If you're a heavy favorite, you do that. Gonna ignore Cooley. Too many repeats. I already answered that one for you. Hopefully you got your answer for sure. I'm leaning Olave over Higgins or McBride in a PPR flex. Starting Bowers and tight end. What do you think? I would go Olave. I would go McBride. Oh, man. I have McBride ahead of Bowers, and then I would go Olave over Bowers or Higgins, but, man, that's a really, really boring. Cool. I answered like 20 minutes ago, but you're still here, so you know what? I'll forgive you this one time, but if you come back, and I'd love to have you back, please don't be repeating your question 10,000 times. I said I would play Pittman. Don't love to have to put him in here, but these other options are very uninspiring. So, I go with Pittman, hope he bounces back, but man, this is ugly. This is really, really ugly. And if you want the ceiling, like assuming Herbert's in, you want to go Johnston, like I have them within 3 to 4 spots of each other. So it's totally, totally possible. But yeah, I would just try to roll the dice one more time on Pittman. But please come back and not repeat your questions next time. No doubt. Glad you subbed. Awesome. And I hope it goes well for you. That's a tough question, man. I would also pick up Whittington over Tyler Johnson for what it's worth myself. I think he's going to end up being the one for the Rams. That is the timer, but we do only have like 3 questions. So, Ryan, I would go Akers and Higgins over Waddle with the Skylar Thompson impact. If we want to rewind to the beginning, I did have a Waddle segment if you want to check that out. Jay Ferguson, I think the tight end is so brutal right now that you play him. He's a good PPR monster. Definitely a tough call. And the thing, Dan, is it's a good problem to have. It's because you have such great options. I love it. I love what you got there. A. Jones or Akers? I'm going Jones, but man, that's close. And Cooley, thanks for subscribing. Any other of you out there would love you to subscribe. It supports the channel, but we'd love to have you keep coming back for those great questions. Last few here. Godwin over Javonte. Easy Godwin there. Need one for my flex, JMO, JSN, or DMont. Oh, I'm going to go JMO there, Shan. That's great options, though. And then Devonta Smith or Mike Evans. Last question of the day for Bo. I am going Devonta Smith over Evans. You have the certain concerns, plus the no A.J. Brown boost. So I'm going Devonta Smith there. Wolfpack, my rankings. I've been updating them through the show with anything we've discussed here. They're going to be pushed live to the site in just a couple minutes. We'll be updating throughout the morning as well if there's other news we have to deal with. You're welcome, Eric and Dan and all you guys with your kind banners. And thank you so much, everybody that super chatted us today. You guys are so greatly appreciated. On your way out, one last call for those thumbs up. If you appreciate the show, you like what you're seeing, and it's just so greatly appreciated. Hit that thumbs up. Get some new subscribers, the like, the sub, the shares, the retweets, all that great stuff truly does go such a long way, or I wouldn't continue to to keep asking for it. But so awesome, again, to have 1,150 of you here. I think that's as close to a record, if not a record. We might have got 2K once last year, but it's so awesome to continue to roll nonetheless with all of you. So in a world full of fantasy sheep, guys, be that wolf. Best of luck in week 3. We'll be live for waiver wires Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Later.